on the conference call and on Zoom. So most of you all have joined on the conference call because this has been going on for many years. But we also have the Zoom call available today, which I'm sure Rupini Mataji must have received the information. Anyways, every day we have been, listening, and for the last, I think, couple decades, I think the Harinam Japa conference call that is so wonderfully serving the devotee community, and also every day, Monday through Friday, Srimad Bhagavatam is being conducted on this conference call. So, today is a very special day. Bhagavat means not only the book Bhagavat, but also the person Bhagavat. And today it is the disappearance anniversary, or the Tirobhav Tithi of a great Vaishnava Acharya, Shrila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. So it is actually eulogizing Bhagavat, Granth Bhagavat, that is being lived by the personality Bhagavat. So we are very fortunate to be in this line of the Brahmamadhava Gaudiya Sampradaya, where we have such great acharyas, such great stalwarts, such great servitors of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, such great servitors of Srimati Radharani, that it is impossible to speak about them. Like in the Mangal Arti, it says, Sri Radhika Madhavayor Apara Madhurya Leela Guda Rupa Nam Nam. The unlimited sweet pastimes of Radha and Krishna, Sri Guru, the acharyas, they describe them with a lot of greed, lolupasya. And I offer my obeisances unto all those Vaishnava acharyas. Krishna and Krishna's pure devotees are practically non-different, and their pastimes are unlimited. And it is impossible to describe their glories, even if we had thousands of mouths and thousands of years to glorify such personalities. However, this servant will try to glorify His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur based on whatever little information this servant has, just to please our Srila Prabhupada, Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, and to please the entire Guru Parampara, and to please the Jugala Sarkar, Radha Krishna. For their pleasure, I take this opportunity to speak about this glorious personality. So we all have heard many a time on every appearance and disappearance of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur about his glories and his greatness. He appeared in 1874, and he appeared in the wonderful place known as Jagannath Puri Dham. Now, this is not a coincidence that why he appeared in Jagannath Puri Dham. It's very important to understand the significance of Jagannath Puri, not just from the perspective of the Skanda Puran and the other the Mahatmyas, the significances that have been described in the Puranas, but from the significance from the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because the Puri Dham is also known as Viyogini Radha Dham. Viyogini means one in separation, in great separation. And Radhaji is in great separation in the form of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Puri Dham. And in the last 12 years of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's personal life, he spent 12 years in a very small room in the place of a great devotee by the name of Kashinath Prabhu. And in his house, there was a small room that Mahaprabhu resided, known as the Gambhira. And that's where, along with Rai Ramadan Prabhu and Swarup Damodar Goswami, who are none other than Lalita and Vishakha. And these are the two most intimate Parshads, or the personalities that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu at that time, in the 12 years, he intensely went into that mood of internal devotion, especially after preaching the glories of the Mahamantra. And he had his own personal reasons, three reasons to come, internal reasons. To taste, Krishna wanted to taste his own sweetness, because from the Vrajvasis and from the interactions with the gopis of Vrindavan, and especially Srimati Radharani, they relished Krishna's sweetness so much that in order to relish his own sweetness, he had to take that bhav. And the bhav of Radharani was the highest. And that is the reason why he aspired to obtain that bhav. He wanted to glorify the prema of Srimati Radharani, the pinnacle or the zenith. Yadi gaur na hoite tabi ke hoito kemo ne dharitam de Radhara Mahima Prema Rashashima Jagata Janata Ke. How would the world have known the zenith or the crescendo or the highest prema that was displayed by Srimati Radharani if Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had not appeared? So Vasugosh Prabhu, one of the associates of Mahaprabhu, has composed this wonderful kirtan, in which he has opened this kirtan with this stanza, Radhara Mahima Prema Rasasima, in order to glorify Srimati Radharani. That was his internal reason. The second reason, Prema Rasasima, the crescendo or the zenith or the highest pinnacle of Krishna Prem. How would the world have known if Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had not appeared? And the third reason, internal reason, is what is it that Srimati Radharani herself feels when she is actually in association of Krishna or in Viyog. Viyog means separation or Vipralamba bhav. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu spent 12 years in separation of Krishna. And we all know Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami Thakur has wonderfully in the Chaitanya Charitamrita described the biography of Mahaprabhu, and especially how he felt that separation and the intensity of separation we find in the Antya Leela 20th chapter in the form of the Sri Chaitanya Sistastaka, and wherein he feels so much separation that he is saying that Mahaprabhu himself is in the 7th verse. He is saying that even a blink of an eye feels like millions and millions of yugas. Yugaitam nimeshena chakshusha pravashaitam shunaitam jagata sarvam govinda virahename. The last line, the last particular 3 words, govinda virahename. So in separation of Krishna. So this is the time when Mahaprabhu has full blown, he has attained the bhav of Radharani. And he is feeling that intense separation. And this place is in the Gambhira in Jagannath Puri. So that Jagannath Puri for the Gaudiya Vaishnavas is of paramount importance, because many Vaishnavas, bona fide Vaishnava groups, they are very, very amazingly involved in the service of Radha Krishna. And mostly it is in the union of Radha and Krishna, when in Sanmukh Seva. But a specialty of the Brahmavada Gaudiya Sampradaya, especially under the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Rupa Goswami, is service in separation, which is a very, very amazing seva, which not all are privy to, or not all of them, all other Vaishnava Sampradayas do not get that advantage. And that kind of service is considered very paramount and paramount in the service of especially Srimati Radharani, service in separation. So it is at this place that Bhaktivinoda Thakur, it's not a coincidence that he was placed, as a magistrate, because he was a judge. In those days, there were no Indian judges, but he was so competent that the British were very, very shrewd, and there were many problems which need to be tackled. And Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur was a magistrate, a judge, and he was appointed in different places in Odisha, and including Bengal, and especially in Jagannath Puri. And there, while he was performing his Lokik, or the worldly duties, so-called worldly duties, as a judge, as a father, as a parent, as a husband, he was a pure devotee. That he is Krishna's pure devotee, Radharani's very intimate servant, that actually fervently played to Lord Jagannath. Because Lord Jagannath is also in separation of Vrindavan Dham. Honestly, I don't really have so much time to explain a lot of those details. Lord Jagannath is Vasudev Krishna in Dwarka, who feels that acute separation from Vrindavan. And that is one of the reasons why the form of Lord Jagannath is so amazing, Adbhut, where his eyes are widened and where he's got all those Ashtasattvik vikars, his hands, his legs have secluded all the three, Jagannath, Baldev, and Subhadra Devi, thinking just of Vrindavan, that separation. So again, Lord Jagannath, Krishna Vasudev also feels separation from Vrindavan. And that is the reason Jagannath Puri Dham is known as the Viyogini Radha Kshetra, because it is the mood of Radha, full-fledged mood that Shyam Sundar Krishna obtained. And there, Bhaktivinoda Thakur actually prayed to the consort of Lord Jagannath in the form of Bimla Devi, and asked her, please, because Bimla Devi is an incarnation of Srimati Radharani, please send me an assistant. Pure devotion, Vaishnava principles have become diluted, and there's hardly anybody who really practices pure devotion. And I need an assistant who can help me propagate the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the purest form, the message of Rup Goswami, Sanatan Goswamis, etc. So at that time, Bhaktivinoda Thakur resided just about half a kilometer on the main road, Badodanda, known as Narayan Chat. That place, Narayan Chat, or the house was called the residence, the shelter of Lord Narayan, Narayan Chat. And there, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada appeared in 1874. And he was named Bimla Prasad. The reason why he was named Bimla Prasad is because he was the Prasad, or the mercy of Bimla Devi, the consort of Lord Jagannath in Jagannath Puri temple. So because Bimla Devi cannot refuse, who is an incarnation of Radharani herself, a request of her pure servitor, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And once it was, once he appeared, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, so nicely, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur called him Bimla Prasad, the mercy of Bimla Devi. So there are so many wonderful pastimes, but I wanted to bring home some very important, in the short time that I have, our Gaudiya Vaishnava Tattva, the very, very important philosophy. We being a part of ISKCON, we should know who we really are, who we really represent, and what is our ultimate goal. Most of the devotees say that yes, our goal is Krishna Prem, but yeah, Krishna Prem is the ultimate goal, but Krishna Prem has got many, many different delineations. The Krishna Prem of the servants in let's say Mathura, Dwarka, Vaikuntha, and even in Golok Vrindavan is of a different nature than the Krishna Prem that the Sakhas, or the friends of Krishna, have for Krishna. And the Krishna Prem that Mother Yashoda and Nanda Baba in the Vatsalya Rasa, and the other elderly gopis and gopas who have a parental love for Krishna, is a different specialty. And then the Krishna Prem that has been displayed by the gopis, the young milkmaid, cowherd girls of Vrindavan. And of course, the topmost gopi, Sri Radha, is of a very high specialty in Madhurya Rasa. So there are even within the Madhurya Rasa, there are different delineations of Krishna Prema. So somehow or the other, we should become aware of it. And especially when there are such special occasions like this, then it becomes our kind of duty for the Vaishnavas who are in the movement for many years to kind of highlight these things so that we can set a higher standard or a bar for our bhakti. And eventually from our sadhana bhakti, which we have to do very nicely and strictly, we have to graduate and postgraduate from Sambandha Abhidya into Prayojan, and the Abhidya being Sambandha being the establishing the relationship with Krishna. That the first is in the Vaidhi Bhakti, the establishment of the relationship is, I am your eternal servant, O Krishna. The basic and the most important philosophy, Jivir Swarup Hoy Krishna Nityadas. That is Sambandha. But when the Sambandha is established, then the inner beauty of Sri Krishna has to be known, and it has to be interacted and served with, not with opulence, but with pure spontaneous love, known as Raganuga Bhakti or Raga Atmika Bhakti, following in the footsteps of the Vrajvasis. So that is known as the process or the Abhidya. And Abhidya is divided into Sadhana Bhakti and also into Raganuga Bhakti. And eventually, once we full blossom Bhakti, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu mentions in the first verse of the Chaitanya Sistastakam, where he says that Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam Vidya Vadu Jivanam. So when the heart fully blossoms like a white lily in the moonlight, the moonlight of Sharad Punam, the full moonlight in the autumn season, which is non-different from the mercy of Lord Baldev and Lord Nityananda. Nitai Pada Kamala Koti Chandra Shushitala Jay Chaya Jagata Judai Heno Nitai Vine Bhai Radha Krishna Paitinai Dridakuri Dharo Nitai Pai. And Lord Nityananda and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are non-different from that perspective, because Lord Nityananda is the Adi Guru, Lord Baldev is the Adi Guru. So by his mercy, we get the entrance into the Vidyavadu Jivanam, meaning we get into the entrance into the Raganuga Bhakti of the Madhurya Rasa of the gopis in Vrindavan. That is Vidya. Vidya means the transcendental knowledge along with Seva. Vadu Jivanam. Vadu means the Vraj Vadus. Vraj Vadu means the cowherd, the milkmaid, gopis in Vrindavan. Jivanam, how they lived their life, how they loved Krishna, etc., etc., etc. These are all very deep rasic meanings. Sometimes we just recite every day Chaitanya Sistastakam and we just read the translation, but there is so much in-depthness because it is Mahaprabhu himself that actually composed this Sistastakam, which is the Samam Bonam of Golok Vrindavan, especially in the Madhurya Rasa. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur appeared in this place of Vyogini Radha Kshetra. He was the fourth son of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and his mother's name was Bhagavati Devi. Wonderful Vaishnavas, and his physiognomy or the bodily features were amazing. When he appeared, his umbilical cord was wrapped around like a Brahmin's sacred thread. So naturally, he was like born from his mother's womb as a pure Brahmin, already with the sanskaras. And when he was only 6 months, during the Rath Yatra time, when Lord Jagannath's Rath pulled out in front of the Lord Jagannath's temple, and when it went on the Bododanda, on the Grand Road, it would not move half a kilometer right in front of Narayan Chat, where Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur resided. And because his pure devotees, Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bimla Prasad, they both resided there. And until and unless Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he came out, and obviously because of his great position, not only as a magistrate, but also as a pure devotee, he was recognized. And they let him up on the Rath, and Bhagavati Devi brought the little 6-month-old Bimla Prasad, and Bhaktivinoda Thakur put him at the lotus feet of Lord Jagannath, and a huge garland of Lord Jagannath encircled Bimla Prasad. And both the Lord and the Lord's servant, they were so happy. Lord Jagannath was beaming upon the meeting, Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, or Bimla Prasad. And then when Bhaktivinoda Thakur got off the Rath, the cart started moving. Otherwise, thousands and thousands of devotees tried to push the cart, but it would not move. So this is a wonderful, intimate relationship that we can see. In his childhood, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, in the summer season, mangoes came, and Bimla Prasad was only 5 years old. And when the mangoes arrived from the market, he took one mango and started eating. And he immediately, Bhaktivinoda Thakur mildly chastised him. He says, "I am your father. It is my duty to chastise you." Because he was a great Vaishnava. Even he knew who Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is in the eternal world, in the Golok Vrindavan. But because he was playing the role of a father, he said, "I must chastise you. This was not offered to Krishna. So you must first offer it to Krishna." Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, or Bimla Prasad, took that instruction so much to heart. He mentions to his disciples later on, when he was in the Gaudiya Math, and many disciples and many visitors brought fruits, and among the exotic fruits, mangoes. So he would not accept the mangoes. He would simply take the mango and touch it to his forehead and says, "I am an offender. I cannot eat a mango. I offended when I was a little child." Just a 5-year-old child took that instruction to heart, that without offering anything to Krishna, one should not accept. And it is a sin, just like what Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Muchanti Sarva Kilbishai, in the 3rd chapter of the Karma Yoga. So everything should be offered to Krishna. He took that to heart, a very small child. And then from there on, he vowed that he would never, ever take a mango again. He would honor it by simply touching it to his forehead if somebody offered mango as a prasad, but he would never, he never ever touched mango again. And then also, as he grew up, Bhaktivinoda Thakur could see the symptoms. He knew who he was. And when he was one amazing scholarly personality, he was studying in the college. And he decided that he's going to quit, because he said that, why, if he was going to study in the college with great attention, then I will be under a lot of pressure to enter into a family life. These are the words of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. But if I look stupid, and if I seem stupid, if I look incompetent, then no one will influence me towards material progress. So even the parents of the girls who perhaps want to see me as a groom, they will not even consider me. Thus, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he left the Sanskrit college, and like that, in 1892, 1905, he was in the Sanskrit college. 1895, he was actually then taken a job by tutoring the Vaishnava king of Tripura's son as a teacher. And later on, of course, he was given full honors retirement after a few years after tutoring by the king, with a great pension, because the king was also a Vaishnava king. And in 1897, the Saraswat Chatuspati, or the astrology mathematics books, Jyotirvidya, Brihaspati, etc., all these wonderful books, he was into Jyotish Vidya. And the University of Calcutta Vice Chancellor saved the chair of astronomy for Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And he wrote a treatise called Surya Siddhanta. And that is why the name Siddhanta, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Siddhanta, comes from that particular treatise that Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur had written as Vice Chancellor, as the chair of astronomy. He was a wonderful astronomist. But then he gave up all that. These were some of the younger days where he displayed some of the pastimes. But now pure devotion had become the utmost importance goal, and to assist Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And then from 1898 to 1905, he went into bhajan life, into very, very reclusive bhajan, almost 7 to 10 years. And in Chaturmas, he only used to eat boiled food that was cooked by himself. If we go to the Gaudiya Math, not too far from our Chandrodaya Mandir, we will find that hut of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada is still there. It had holes, but he would take an umbrella and he would sit and he would continue chanting 3 lakh names, just like Haridas Thakur. He did that for almost 1 decade. He slept on the floor without pillows, and even whatever little fruits he ate during that time, he would simply not give up the mala. He would simply bend down to the floor and touch his lips and grab a few pieces of fruit, and just to sustain. He continued. He went into a lot of wonderful, deep internal bhajan. And then in 1898, he met his divine grace Srila Gaur Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj. Because Bhaktivinoda Thakur had recommended that he take a guru. Bhaktivinoda Thakur could have easily initiated him. He was his father. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is a great personality, a personal servitor of Sri Radha. But he is very humble. He did not want to initiate his own son. He said that Gaur Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj in Navadvip, you should take initiation from him. Gaur Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj apparently was completely illiterate. He cannot read or write. And here Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was an encyclopedia. He not only had material knowledge, but he spoke so many wonderful languages. He spoke Sanskrit, he spoke Bengali, he spoke Urdu, he spoke Farsi, and he was a moving encyclopedia. It is said that whatever he read once, he could completely remember it. He could tell you what page, what word, where it is found. And he was like completely just once, he had to read it once. That's how this great personality was. His hands were, his physiognomy was that he had long hands that touched to his knees and very austere, and we can see that he was very grave. So all these showed that he was the signs, the physiognomy showed that he's a great personality. When he met Gaur Babaji Maharaj and said that I want to surrender to you, please initiate me, give me Diksha. So Gaur Babaji Maharaj obviously said no. He knew who he was. He is Bhaktivinoda Thakur's son, the great, and of course, in the spiritual sky in Golok Vrindavan, his position. So Gaur Babaji Maharaj said, no, Baba, no. I'm just an illiterate fool. How can I initiate you? And like that, he refused. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Bimla Prasad, continuously went to him, served him, just like how Ishwar Puripat, the guru of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, had served Madhavendra Puripat. He used to go in the forest where Gaur Krishna Babaji Maharaj used to pass his call of nature and clean that place. Such menial jobs he used to do. Such a great scholarly personality, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, where he had the Saraswati sitting on his tongue. He knew all the Vedas, he knew all the Shastras, he knew all the Siddhantas of Bhakti. That is why he's Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So that personality served, and then he requested. And Gaur Babaji Maharaj would say, okay, I will ask Mahaprabhu. And whatever Mahaprabhu says, he would scratch his head and say, I will ask him. And if he says to initiate you, I will initiate you. So like that, so on, he used to come back again and again. He says, oh, I forgot to ask Mahaprabhu. So one time, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur could not take it anymore. He said, if you do not give me shelter, Vaishnava Thakur, I will end my life by jumping into the Ganga, because my life is useless. My father, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, has instructed me to take initiation from you. And at that time, Srila Gaur Krishna Babaji Maharaj could not. Mahaprabhu himself came to him in his vision and said, please initiate him. It is as if like something so similar that happened to Narottam Das Thakur and to Narottam Das Thakur's Gurudev, the great personality, Loknath Goswami. Loknath Goswami also felt the same thing about Narottam Das Thakur. When Narottam Das Thakur approached him, he says, you are such a wonderful, great devotee, a great scholarly personality, and I am not so qualified to initiate you. But, some or the other, Mahaprabhu came in his dream and says, it will give me pleasure if you initiate Narottam Thakur. So then, to please Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he took one disciple, only disciple, Narottam Das Thakur, Loknath Goswami. Similarly, Gaur Krishna Babaji Maharaj also, to please Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and for his pleasure, gave initiation to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Bimla Prasad. And he named him Sri Barsha Bhanvi Daitaya Das. This was the name prior to the sannyas of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. His birth name was Bimla Prasad by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, because he was the prasad of the mercy of Bimla Devi in Lord Jagannath's temple, or an expansion of Sri Radhaji. And then he, after taking formal initiation, the Brahma Gayatri mantra and the Harinam from Srila Gaurakrishna Baji Maharaj, he was named Sri Varsha Bhanvi Daitaya Das. So I will kind of expound on that name. Perhaps for those devotees who want to stay a little longer than it is required, please do so, because I don't mind doing an extended session. It is just amazing about speaking about this personality. It will purify all of us. So I understand it's a working day. I know a lot of you all are on the conference call on the phone, but please forgive me, because I am going to be speaking on Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur to the best of my ability today, because I think that it would please our Srila Prabhupada. Anyways, so like this, 1905 in Mayapur, he chanted 192 rounds, just like Haridas Thakur. And then finally, Bhaktivinoda Thakur wrote to him. Bhaktivinoda Thakur at that time was in Kolkata, and he said, and this is a personal letter. Actually, I have a copy, meaning a print of it, and I would like to share. It is in Bangla, in Bengali, but the translation is as follows. He wrote a very, very strong letter to his son. He addressed him. He used to call him Saraswati. Saraswati means, you all know that it is like Saraswati Devi, the goddess of knowledge. And Saraswati is because he had written this book, Surya Siddhanta, on astrology. So he was given that prefix by the Calcutta University. So there's a double meaning. And so he used to always, Bhaktivinoda Thakur used to call him Saraswati. So he wrote, Saraswati, people of this world who are proud of their aristocratic birth cannot attain real aristocracy. So what is real aristocracy? Real aristocracy is when we attain the service of Radha Krishna in the pure Gaudiya Bhav. That is real aristocracy. Therefore, these people who do not understand real aristocracy, just because of their money and their other social status, they attack pure Vaishnavas, saying that they have taken birth in low class families because of their sins. And that's what it was during the time of Bhaktivinoda Thakur in Bengal. Especially, real Vaishnavism had completely been completely almost extinct. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur had to re-establish those principles. That is one of the reasons why even Advaita Acharya, he prayed to Chaitanya, to Krishna, please come. It is time for you to come. And then Krishna came as Mahaprabhu. He prayed fervently on the banks of the Ganga, Advaita Acharya. Huhunkar Garjanadi, he roared like a lion. He cried, Advaita Acharya. Ahoratra Shadaguna, at day and night he pleaded to Krishna, Nanda Nandan, please come. Ha Krishna, Radhika Nath, Prarthana, I fervently pray to you, please come. Gangavari, by offering the waters of the Ganges, Tulsi Adi, Chandana, by offering Tulsi to the Shaligram Sila, he fervently prayed. We said that now Vaishnavism is really getting extinct. Please come, Mahaprabhu. So Mahaprabhu appeared. And then, of course, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was one of the torchbearers. And later on, even after Mahaprabhu's appearance in Bengal, pure Vaishnavism again started to deplete. And today this is happening even in our movement, unfortunately. You know, Prabhupada's books are being altered. Our ISKCON temples are not being called ISKCON temples, they are called yoga centers. Jagannath Yatra is called Chariot Festival, Festival of India. All these things, Prabhupada never did that. You know, this is so unfortunate. Our leaders have to wake up. I'm sorry, I'm a very small, insignificant person, but as it is the glories of our parampara. And simply to, attract people, we do not need to hide the name of Krishna by saying the divine or by using such language. When Srila Prabhupada in 1966, when I think the lawyer, Mr. Goldstein, one Jewish lawyer, and Allen Ginsberg and other some personalities in the 26 Second Avenue, they said, now we should form a non-profit organization. So the lawyer said that, Swamiji, give us a name. So Prabhupada said that we will call it the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So some of the persons who were present there, they said that, Swamiji, can we make a suggestion? Why don't we call it the International Society for God Consciousness? That will attract many more people. So Prabhupada said, no, Krishna is God, God is Krishna. So Prabhupada was not afraid of using the word Krishna. But nowadays, we are so careful. We are afraid to use the word, greet each other Hare Krishna, to say Hare Krishna in public, to even distribute Bhagavad Gita as it is. We say that this is a book on yoga. No, it is not a book on yoga. It is a book on pure devotional service. It is a book on pure bhakti yoga. It is a book to connect us to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, we need not use those tactics. Nobody can, the proof is in the pudding. When Srila Prabhupada appeared and when he preached in the West, even the most dullest persons of the malechas, the meat eaters, the persons who are of the hippie nature, who are not following the 4 regulative principles, which is considered so common not to, illicit sex, gambling, meat eating, intoxication was so prominent. Even to those dull-headed personalities, Prabhupada just used the word Hare Krishna, chant and be happy. And this is the main principle, because the holy name is indeed very powerful. And Prabhupada knew that. That's how. Dinahina Jatachilo Hariname Uddharilo Tara Sakshi Jagai Madai. And Narottam Das Thakur in one of his bhajans says, Hari Hari Bifale Janama Gaino, Manusha Janama Paiya, Radha Krishna na bhajiya, janiya shuniya vishwagain. So, Dinahina Jatachilo, just the fallen souls, like even Jagai and Madai were delivered by the holy name. So we should not, we should know who we are. And this particular session on Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur will perhaps give us an insight on how fortunate we are that we are admitted in this great school, the highest school of theism, in the Madhurya Rasa Krishna Prema, in the line of Mahaprabhu. Bhaktivinoda Thakur then he says that because pure, the solution of this problem, Saraswati, is to establish the order of Daivi Varnashram, something you have started doing. So again, I don't have much time to explain what Daivi Varnashram is, but Krishna explains that in the Bhagavad Gita. Varnashram is the Chaturvarnya Maya system, Guna Karma Vibhagasa. Varna and ashrams. According to one's qualities, one should serve Krishna, whether one is in the 4 varnas or 4 ashrams. The 4 varnas and 4 ashrams, the 4 varnas are the Shudra, the Vaishya, the Kshatriya and Brahman, and the 4 ashrams are Brahmacharya, the Grihastha, Vanaprastha and Sannyas. So these 4 ashrams and varnas are meant to develop Krishna consciousness. No matter where we are, there's no excuse not to be Krishna conscious. Even if one is born in a Shudra family or one has got Shudra-like qualities, they can still serve the higher persons in the higher ashrams, those who are serving Krishna nicely. So therefore, their services will come to fruition and then they will be promoted to the highest platform of a Vaishnava. Even a dog eater or a Chandal or a meat eater is promoted to Vaishnava if one simply follows in the footsteps of the great Vaishnavas. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, who has for 10 years gone into reclusion chanting 3 lakh names, 300,000 names every day, 18 hours a day. And he's saying that that you have to set this up. And that is one of the reasons Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur taking up the principles where Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Chaturvarnya Maya system, Guna Karma Vibhag. He doesn't say by Janma. So for all those, we may not, who are not aware, the credit goes to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and of course to his wonderful disciple Srila A.C. Bhaktivinoda Swami Srila Prabhupada. Today in ISKCON, those devotees who are on the altar and they are being given the Upanayan Sanskar or the second initiation with the Brahma Gayatri mantra or the 7 Gayatris, the Kam Gayatri, Guru Gayatri. In total, there are 7 Gayatris that we chant, those who have been given second initiation. And then the thread, although those persons were not born to Brahmin parents or they were not born in a Brahmin dynasty or a Brahmin kul or a family. And that is by guna. So this design was laid by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, that, if one shows the qualities of a Brahmin, if one acquires the qualities of a Brahmin, then he can get that Brahminical thread. And even today in India, people do not understand that. It's so unfortunate that even in Sri Vrindavan time, many years ago, and not too far, about 4 or 5 years ago, some of the local residents who are envious of Srila Prabhupada, of the success, they criticized him for giving the janoi or the Brahminical thread to the meat eaters, to the malechas, to the Westerners. But that is what is Daivi Varnashram is. Daivi Varnashram means it's a transcendental Varnashram which is set on the principles of quality, not on the principles of birth. So that is what Daivi Varnashram is in a nutshell. And Srila Prabhupada followed it as it is, and he implied that. He put that into application. And that is the reason why we see blacks and whites and Orientals and Indians and Asians, no matter what their background is, they're so nicely serving the deities in ISKCON. Immaculately, in very nice clean clothes and with all wonderful, upcharas, and with all the places, 12 places on the body, the tilak with the mantras and all these things, and all the different 7 Gayatris, etc. All these things are wonderfully done as per the Adi Guru, Naradji, in the Narad Pancharatra, how to serve the deities. In the Hari Bhakti Vilas, Gopal Bhatta Goswami has explained. And that is what the Daivi Varnashram system was. The plan was laid by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur on instruction of Bhakti Vinod Thakur. My Guru Maharaj used to say that Bhakti Vinod Thakur actually gave the blueprints, and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was the architect, and Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada actually was the contractor, or the person who just like a good contractor needs good blueprints and needs a good architect. So this is the team of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, because pure devotional conclusions are not being preached, all kinds of superstitions and bad concepts are being called devotion under pseudo sampradayas. So there are 12 pseudo sampradayas or false sampradayas. Even today we find that they take the name of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they take the name of Lord Nityananda, Bhaja Gauranga, Bhaja Nityananda, Bhaja Radhe Govinda. All such different mantras are being concocted. And Prabhupada was very careful. So we don't chant all those mantras. Even if we go to Vrindavan and Mayapur, we find in Bengal, there are those persons who take the name of Mahaprabhu. But there are 12 apasampradayas. There are the Sahajas, the Atibaris, the Sankachudas, etc. The Sakhi Bheki, these personalities, what they do is they take the name of Mahaprabhu, they chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, but they are basically not real followers of Mahaprabhu, because they do not follow it as it is. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur had recognized those Aul, Baul. There are about 12 apasampradayas which Bhaktivinoda Thakur specifically recognized. And one who thinks that they are wearing Kanthimala, they are wearing the tilak, they are chanting the holy name, same Mahamantra, and then they also concoct a lot of mantras, and then we think that they are pure in the line of Rupa Goswami or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then we are mistaken. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes in particular that all these bad concepts are being called devotion under the pseudo sampradaya. Pseudo means it's a Latin word for false, pseudo sampradayas. So there are 12 of those recognized by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and even today they are prominent. So then Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, please serve Mayapur Dham. Now, already he is in Mayapur Dham chanting the holy names, but what does he really mean by serving Mayapur Dham? Real service to Mayapur Dham is that one can acquire by printing press. So this printing press, also known as the Bruhat Mridanga, it is known as the Bruhat Mridanga. Mridanga is the instrument that we play in Kirtan, and the Bruhat in Sanskrit means huge, gigantic. That kind of Mridanga that can be heard, whose sound vibration can go on for miles and miles and miles and miles, and places and places and places. And what are those? Books are the basis. And that is again, the printing press was first established by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur in the Gaudiya Sampradaya. And then following in his footsteps, His Divine Grace. Of course, we have the great Bhakti Vedanta Bhagavad Book Trust, BBT. So that is what Bhakti Vinod Thakur had requested. That is real service. So real service to Mayapur is what even our Prabhupada, A.C. Bhakti Swami Srila Prabhupada, is doing through the medium of his books. Big and small, over 120 books Srila Prabhupada, translated day and night, labored. And this is all for the pleasure of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, for the pleasure of Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur, for the pleasure of Srimati Radharani, for the pleasure of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. That is real service to Mayapur. That is what Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur defines as real service to Mayapur. So he says, please do not neglect this service of Mayapur and for the sake of your reclusive bhajan. So what he's telling Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, get up, leave Mayapur, and now I want you to go everywhere and preach and set up printing presses, set up, write books, and preach the message of Mahaprabhu. Serve Mayapur Dham. Mayapur and the Dham are non-different from Sri Vrindavan Dham. So when Srila Prabhupada left in 1965 Vrindavan Dham, he brought Vrindavan wherever he went. Jatha Vaishnava Gane Sei Sthan Vrindavan. Bhakti Vinod Thakur says, wherever there are pure Vaishnava, that place itself becomes Vrindavan. Vrindavan is brought to them. So Prabhupada has brought Vrindavan to us through his books, through the chanting of the holy names. It's just that we do not realize it. It's just that we refuse to kind of, get into that mood, or at least that inner desire has to be there in order to get into that mood. So that is what we have to understand. It is not that we should, completely give up everything and stay in Vrindavan and Mayapur. No, actually there are two kinds of bhajan anandis. There is one is two kinds of devotees, or two kinds of great personalities. One is known as a bhajan anandi and one is known as a goshti anandi. A bhajan anandi is that personality who does a lot of bhajan, reclusive bhajan, very, very lots of austerities. He reads a lot of books, chants a lot of the holy name, like in a reclusive dham like Mayapur, Navadvip, Vrindavan, Jagannath Puri. They stay and they do not want to be disturbed, and they simply are absorbed in that mood, in that pure Vaishnava bhajan mood. But there is a nice principle that Prahlad Maharaj speaks about, and that's what the difference here is between bhajan anandi and goshti anandi. So the bhajan anandi is a pure devotee who is in reclusive bhajan, and when he, at the end of his life, he goes home back to Godhead, back in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, according to his rasa or his bhav, and he has attained his perfection. So he does good to himself. But a goshti anandi is one who is not only a bhajan anandi, who has practiced pure devotional service, Bhakti Siddhanta, Bhakti Vedanta, to the highest extent, and leads the rest of the Vaishnava community through example by preaching. So from bhajan anandi, he becomes goshti anandi. Goshti anandi means he preaches. And such preachers are even eulogized in the Gopi Geet by the gopis themselves, by Radharani herself. Tava katha amritam tapta jivanam kavi biriditam kalmashapaham shravana mangalam srimadatam bhuvi grinanti je bhuridajana. Those who are going all over the world, giving your narrations and sharing your pastimes, they are indeed the highest benefactors of mankind. That is what the gopis sing in the 9th verse of the Gopi Geet. That is what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu loved when King Prataprudra recited those verses of the Gopi Geet, especially verse number 9. Somebody he did not want to see. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so pleased that he hugged, and both of them cried in ecstasy, King Prataprudra and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Jagannath Puri, when this particular verse. So Bhajananandi, not only he is doing good to himself, but he does good to others. So we find that in Vrindavan Dham, Mayapur, Navadvip, and many great places of tirthas, we find great Vaishnavas who are in reclusive bhajan. That's very good. Not many people can even do that, but those are indeed what the gopis say is bhuri dajana. Da means Dan, and Bhuri means the utmost or the most or the unlimited or the most munificent. Just like Rup Goswami uses the word Namo Mahavadanyaya, Krishna Prema Pradayate for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, Bhurida, those are indeed the highest beneficiaries of mankind, those who preach Krishna consciousness. So, Bhajananandi and Goshtianandi, these are the two major differences. Prabhupada was a Bhajananandi, wonderfully situated in Vrindavan Dham, 10 years. But then, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Rup Goswami, Jiv Goswami inspired him in the Seva Kunj. No. You have to go and you have to preach the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to the English-speaking world. And that's why he left Vrindavan for us. Otherwise, what is our relationship? Today, whatever all these devotees that we are meeting, either online or in the temple, this is our real family, our transcendental family. That is due to His Divine Grace of Prabhupada, due to our Gaudiya Parampara, due to Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, due to Bhaktivinoda Thakur, who inspired Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur by writing this strong letter when he was a Bhajananandi, 10 years in reclusive bhajan. He said, I have a special desire to preach the significance of such books as Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes a personal letter. I have a personal desire that you preach Shadasandarbhas. Shadasandarbha are the 6 principles of bhakti that Jiva Goswami compiled in 6 different cantos, we can say, or 6 different books. And Vedanta Darshan. You have to accept that responsibility. Sri Mayapur will prosper if you establish an educational institution there. So see, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati left that wonderful job to Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Never make an effort, wonderful instructions. He writes in that letter, never make an effort to collect knowledge or money for your own enjoyment. Very important. Preaching is the essence. Preaching out of compassion, but not preaching out of some kind of material ambition. Today we find, even within our own movement and also otherwise, professional speakers who conduct Srimad Bhagavatam Katha, they charge hundreds, tens and thousands of dollars or lakhs of rupees or crores of rupees, and all that pomp and show, and big orchestras and singing all those different songs, even in the filmy tunes and all that. That is not real service to Mayapur or Vrindavan. Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, never make an effort to collect knowledge or money for your own enjoyment. This is a father, a guru, a Siksha guru, a senior Parshad of Radharani instructing directly to Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. Only to serve the Lord will you collect these things. These were his instructions. That is what Rupa Goswami's principle in the Bhakti Rasam Sindhu is Yukta Vairagya. Krishna Sambandha Yukta Vairagya Uchyate. Anything that is used in the service of Krishna is considered Yukta Vairagya. Vairagya means detachment. We have to be detached to everything that is material. We have to be detached with everything that is concerned with our personal sense gratification. But we can always engage everything in the service of Krishna. Whether it is a laptop, whether it is a microphone, whether it is a musical instrument, whether it is a car, whether whatever faculties we have, Krishna Sambandha in relation to Sri Krishna, when we are using these amenities, although they may appear in the material world as material things, but they are considered for the service of Krishna, not for our service, for our sense gratification. Like this, he instructed in Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. He took that letter to heart. He stopped his reclusive bhajan, and then he moved to Kolkata. And like that, there are wonderful different incidences. In 1911, there was a wonderful Brahmins and Vaishnavas conference in Navadvip. Jati Brahmins had called in and he invited many Mahantas. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was present. And the Jati Brahmins by birth. Today we find that many places in Vrindavan, many places, by birth they are Brahmins, so they take over the temples. And they are, whether they are eating pan, tobacco, they all have all these different vyasans or different addictions. In spite of them, they feel that they are highly qualified to serve these deities. Somehow or the other, Krishna is merciful. Because of their forefathers, they still get that benefit. But But for those persons who are really humble and real Vaishnavas or real Brahmanas, they would feel that no, I'm not qualified if I'm not following the 4 regulative principles properly, etc. But that is Jati Brahman. Jati means from Jat, from birth, from their descendancy, from family. So Jati Brahmans, they invited these Mahantas, and Bhakti Siddhanta Prabhupada went, and they were hoping, because he was a big scholar. So they wanted to hear the glories of the Brahmins. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he started speaking on the glories of the Brahmanas, from quoting different scriptures from the Vedas, etc. All the Brahmins were related. And they were just like, wow, wow, wow. And when later on, then Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur started using, on the strength of the Shastras, he started eulogizing the Vaishnavas. And he said the Vaishnavas are even beyond the Brahmins. And like that, and that the Jati Brahmins did not like. So they started pelting stones, and they started almost wanted to kill him. So one of the disciples, and some of the few disciples that were present with Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, they said, Gurudev, please, for our sake, I know you are not scared of anything. Actually, he is known as Singha Guru. Simha Guru means lion Guru. He was a lion, not scared of anything. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. But for the sake of his disciples, he got up and he started going in a certain direction. And one of his disciples says, Gurudev, I beg you, please. He was in a grihastha clothing. Let's exchange clothes. The whole crowd is coming. These Jati Brahmins are very notorious. They will kill, and we will lose you. They will commit an offense to Radharani if they pelt stones on you, if they hurt you. It is even for their sake. Please, Guru Maharaj, just exchange clothes. Give me your upper garment of the sannyasi. And he took that and he gave him the white uttariya. And then, the crowd saw that, oh, that sannyasi is going in that direction. So they all went behind him, but it was one of the disciples of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was safe. And that personality is none other than the sannyas guru of Srila Prabhupada, A.C. Bhakti Swami, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj. So he is the one who actually pleaded to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Just as a side note, he is the one who, when everybody failed to cooperate with Srila A.C. Bhakti Swami Prabhupada, Abhay Charana Ravinda Das, about sending him to the West, preaching what his Guru Maharaj had instructed. They said, no, you join the Gaudiya Math, the temple. We will see. Excuses were being made. And he wanted to take sannyas. They would not give it to him. So Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj, one of the senior disciples of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, said, yes, I understand what Guru Maharaj said. And I know your heart. I will give you sannyas. So that sannyas was bestowed to him by Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj, who at that time was serving Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur in this 1911 conference, that in particular the Brahmin and Vaishnava conference. In 1913-15, he established the Bhagavad Yantralaya. 1915, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur established the monthly magazine known as the Sajjantoshani. And following in his footsteps, Srila Prabhupada compiled the Back to Godhead magazine. So Sajjantoshani is a Bengali, and in the English version of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Sajjan Toshani is the harmonist. And in 1915, Srila Gaurkishore Babaji Maharaj, his Gurudev, disappeared. So at his disappearance, many of the Mahantas or the different leaders in the different temples in Navadvip, they started fighting over the body of the divine body of Srila Gaurkishore Babaji Maharaj. Oh, I will take this. I will make a samadhi. The other one said, no, we need his samadhi in our temple. Another one said, no, we need, and there was a big chaos. The police had also appeared, and the police were trying to control. And how can the police even do some kind of a lathi charge on the Babajis, those who are dressed like Vaishnavas? And when they are fighting, the sadhus are fighting, the police also, especially at that time, there was some courtesy. We are talking about the 1915s, the early 20th century. So then at that time, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur appeared, and he said, everybody, do not touch the divine body of my Guru Maharaj. If anybody of you who touches my Guru Maharaj if anybody of you are impure, will burn to ashes. If anybody of you in the last 1 year has not associated with a woman or thought of illicit sex, or in the last 1 month, or in the last 1 week, or in the last 1 day, have not thought about it, then you have a right to touch my Guru, otherwise you will burn to ashes. All of them slowly backed off, looking at the purity of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Just by that sentence and the gaze that he gave to all of them, purity is the force. That's what Srila Prabhupada. Books are the basis, purity is the force, utility is the principle. Srila Prabhupada always talked about this, and preaching is the essence. These four. And they're all interconnected dots. So all of them backed up, and the police chief was at that time surprised just with that one sentence, because their purpose was that a great personality of Gaur Krishna Babaji Maharaj, if the Samadhi was in that temple, then they would get visitors. And when you get visitors, people donate money. So then their temple will become rich. That is the goal. Nowadays, that's what is happening. Even in Vrindavan Dham, in many places, they want to open ashrams, they want to open guest houses, they want to open temples just to make it an attraction for people so that they can just make money. The big so-called Bhagavad speakers, they all have their huge ashrams made of marbles and AC and all this. That is not a place. Sri Vrindavan Dham, Mayapur is a place of bhajan. It is okay to invite persons and encourage them for a few days to give them some facility, especially those who are coming from the Western countries. But for them to continuously enjoy their sense gratification, guest is Atithi Devo Bhava. For them, you can give them good facilities. But if one is calling himself a resident of Vrindavan, and then one indulges in sense gratification of what is living lavishly, etc., then that is not pure devotion. So that and that is only for the purpose of name, fame, Kamini, Kanchan, and Pratishtha. That is just for money, for attracting the opposite sex, and on the highest subtle platform, it is simply for sense gratification on a subtle platform, Pratishtha. So these things are going on. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur clearly said, never will you do that, will you collect money for these purposes. So then Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, what do you think you all are? Even my Gauranga Mahaprabhu will be very happy to take the divine body of my Guru Maharaj on his head and dance. Just like Haridas Thakur. When Haridas Thakur, who was born in a Muslim family by Janma, a Malecha, a meat eater, but he became a Vaishnava because of chanting the holy names. Mahaprabhu used to go see him every day through Haridas Thakur and give him darshan. The 6 Goswamis, whenever they went to Puri, they met with Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur was a pure devotee, although born in a very, very low consciousness originally, in a low species of life, of human life. But when he passed away, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, with ecstasy, with tears in his eyes, carried the body of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of Haridas Thakur, and danced. And he personally performed the Samadhi ceremony on the Jagannath Puri Mahamodes Tire, on the beach right there, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So my Guru Mahaprabhu will personally carry the body of my Guru Maharaj. So like this, he was so proud, transcendently proud of his heritage that he had received from Srila Gaur Krishna Babaji Maharaj. Nama Gaur Krishnaraya Sakshat Vairagya Murte Vipralambar Sambode Padambujayate Nama. This is the pranam mantra of Gaur Krishna Babaji. Nama Gaur Krishnaraya. I offer my obeisances to Gaur Krishna Babaji Maharaj. Nama Gaur Krishnaraya Sakshat Vairagya Murte. He was the embodiment of Vairagya, of detachment. He used to take the clothes that were rejected in the crematorium, just like Lord Shiva. He would pick up. He never wear any decent dhoti or anything. He used to wear rags from the crematorium. He used to chant in the crematorium. He used to make beads out of the rope. Not even tulsi beads. He used to stay in secluded places like the crematorium so that his bhajan would not be disturbed. Gaur Krishna. And why? Because he was in Sakshat Vairagya Murte, the embodiment of detachment, the personality, embodiment of detachment. Vipralambar Sambode. This is the high quality of the Gaudiya Vaishnavism in the line of Rupa Goswami. Vipralamba Rasambodhi. We talked about service in separation. Vipralamba means separation. Rasa Ambudhi. Rasa means the mellows of Krishna consciousness in the Madhuri Rasa. The ocean. Ambudhi means ocean. Rasambodhi. Padam Bhojayate Nama. For my respectful obeisances unto that great personality, Shri Gaur Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj. Talking about the specialty of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, Bhakti Vinod Thakur posted in Viyogini Radha Dham. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur appeared in Viyogini Puri Dham. And Babaji Maharaj in his Pranam Mantra itself says, Sakshat Vairagya Murte Vipralambar Sambodhe Padam Bhujayate. So like this, these are the words that were spoken out of humility. Even Lord Krishna considered himself fortunate, he said to the Babajis, fortunate to carry the body of Gurudev. Like this. And then on 1918, Gaur Purnima Day, after the departure of 3 years after the departure of Gaur Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj, Gaur Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj appeared in his dream. He says, take sannyas. Take sannyas. And something very similar in Srila Prabhupada's life. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur appeared in his dream. Take sannyas, 3 times. And Prabhupada was astonished. What a horrible dream. He called it horrible because he was married, he had children. How can I leave them? That's the first thing that came to his mind. He was enacting the pastime of a common householder. Take sannyas. Similarly, then Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur took sannyas in front of the picture of Gaur Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj. It's one of those exceptions. Of course, we cannot imitate, but those are the spiritual visions. Take sannyas, and he took sannyas. And by accepting the saffron cloth, he took a humble position. Actually, there is a position higher than the sannyas ashram, which is known as the Babaji Vesh. So the 6 Goswamis are in the Babaji Vesh. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he never took sannyas. From Vanaprastha, from Grihastha, Vanaprastha, he directly went into Babaji Vesh. He didn't take the sannyas ashram. So some of the Vaishnavas who are very immaculate and very high caliber, they can directly go to a certain ashram without going through the complete Varnashram classes or the process. Just like, we find that certain students who are excelling in school, they are promoted like 2 or 3 years ahead of their time. We have heard that, in our childhood, we have seen that certain children were so amazingly, some of the students in our school were so amazingly exceptional that they got 2 years promotion. If they were in the 5th standard, they got direct promotion to the 7th standard, considering the report cards and everything. So similarly, but if he wanted, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, like his father and like the 6 Goswamis, he could have taken the Babaji Vesh, but he was very humble. And he had a reason to take the sannyas Vesh, is because his father had this desire to preach and serve Mayapur Dham through the essence of preaching. And sannyas ashram is meant for preaching. Sannyas ashram is not meant for some lavish staying in good places and in lavish enjoyment. That's not the reason for sannyas ashram. Is simply for the benefit of mankind, because out of the 4 ashrams, people in general respect the sannyasi. A grihastha giving, let's say, a Bhagavad Katha, speaking about Bhagavatam, etc. The same verse, he may be even speaking better, in terms of his knowledge or his experience, etc. But if a sannyasi is speaking the same verse, more people will listen, the more attention it will grab. And that is one of the reasons why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu himself took sannyas at the age of 24. Because after he came back, after performing the Pindadan in Gaya, when he met his guru, Ishwar Puripad, and he initiated him to Harinam Mahamantra, he went crazy. And he started rolling in the grounds in Navadvip. All the children in the toll means the Gurukul, where he used to teach grammar. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu used to teach the Vedanta and the Vedas. The students and everybody else, they started making fun of him. Look, he's gone crazy. Nimai Pandit has gone crazy. The Pandit has gone crazy. Pandit means he's teaching. He's teaching all Vedas. He's teaching so many scriptures. And now he's simply crying and just chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra and rolling on the ground. So then there came a point where Mahaprabhu had a mission, an external mission of preaching the holy name. So that is the reason Why? At a very young, early age, he left his wife early in the morning one day. And because he could not find any Vaishnava sadhu or a sannyasi to initiate him, he took initiation because the sannyas ashram was so important to preach that he took initiation from a Mayavadi sannyasi. He took initiation from the Bharti Sampradaya, Keshav Bharti sannyasi in Katwa. So that, once he takes sannyas, he became an authority. And from then on, everybody listened to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu about the glories of the holy name. He went to the Padayatra, he was respected highly. So that is the reason sannyas is taken. Actually, Srila Prabhupada also, he gave sannyas to very young boys, 18 years, 19 years, 20 years. And Prabhupada, somehow or the other, he knew that some of them will not be able to keep it up. But according to time, place, and circumstances, he knew he had to preach the mission of Mahaprabhu all over the world. And he could not do it single-handedly. So he gave sannyas to anybody who was willing to strictly follow the 4 regulative principles and display a strong sense of preaching. So Prabhupada knew that, and he gave them sannyas. And today what is happening, even to get Harinam initiation, even the old Matajis who sometimes are not very good at vocabulary or English, they have been forced to take this disciple courses and then pay fees and then give their examination in English. Where all these things have seeped into our movement, I don't know. I'm very bold when it comes to speaking about these things because I like to speak things as it is. And it is my humble request to all the leaders. Of course, I'm insignificant, but observations are not insignificant. Prabhupada used to initiate them at the gate, at the airport, just before departure. When somebody came, no yajna, nothing. Will you chant the holy names, Hare Krishna Mahamantra? That Prabhu would say, yes, Prabhupada, or at Mata, yes, Prabhupada, yes, Swamiji, we will do that. Will you follow the 4 regulative principles? No meat eating, no gambling, no intoxication, no illicit sex. Yes, Swamiji, yes, Prabhupada, I will do that. Okay, Prabhupada would chant right there, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. Your name is such and such, Devi Das, or your name is such and such Das. And like that, the Harinam initiation was given. So Harinam initiation doesn't require those formalities. Neither scholarship, neither does it require any yajna, none of that. Harinam initiation is beyond all these different social etiquettes. But the social etiquettes are done so that it formalizes it. But formalizing is also an important thing. It is not that it is not important, but the main thing is the prema or the sincerity for Harinam, for the Guru and the Shishya, both. So Srila Prabhupada initiated so many like that. That is compassion. Anyways, that's a different story. And, times have changed. But it is not compassion. I was in Pune a few years ago, and there was some Maharashtrian Matajis, about 75 years old. One was 81 years old. And, they were interested in taking initiation. They were chanting the holy names. All the time they had the bead bags in their hands. But then they were forced to give some examination. Somebody was translating for them. They had to pay fees. And my heart was burning when I saw that. No, this is not our Mahaprabhu's movement. I'm really sorry to say that. There has been great dilution that's been going on. And, lest they forget all those devotees initiated by Prabhupada, how many of them fell down? How many of them, they gave up their sannyas ashram? But even then, Prabhupada was so kind to them and so compassionate. So we need to be compassionate to all the jivas. Anybody who comes, even takes a little bit of Krishna, encourage them. Do not complicate their lives. Life is too short. We are in this COVID environment. Last year we saw so many people lose, somebody or the other we knew, that people we lost suddenly like this. And then we are talking about giving examinations where no, take Harinam Baba, just chant the holy names. This is the importance. That is what Mahaprabhu, that is what Bhakti Vinod Thakur ji, that is what Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, etc. So, like this, he takes sannyas and he takes a humble position instead of taking Babaji Vesh. In 1922, in Kolkata, Ultadanga Road, Srila Abhaycharana Ravinder Das was working as a manager in the Karthik Bose laboratories. And at that time, Abhay Charan Babu was in the Gandhi movement, in the Swaraj movement of Gandhiji. And he had given up even his Scottish Church's degree that was convocated by the British. He gave up all the British clothing material. He used to wear khadi. He even wore the Gandhi topi. And he was a staunch follower of Mahatma Gandhi. So at that time, while working in the lab, once he finished his job, sometime in the evening, his friend Narendranath Mallik, one of Abhay Babu's friends, Prabhupada's friends, met him and says that a wonderful sadhu has come to town. Come with me. Let's go take his darshan. And he said, he coerced him. But Abhay Babu said, no, Baba, no. I want to go home. I have my own deities, Radha Govindji. And my father, a great Vaishnava, very, very naive, very innocent. He used to entertain all kinds of people who wearing a sadhu dress, wearing a tilak, giving them pranami, giving them prasadam. And then I have seen, once they left our house, they went around the corner and they started smoking bidi or smoking ganja. So this is mentioned in Srila Prabhupada's Lila Amrit. That is what but I have no time for such. Well, that is what this situation was in West Bengal, in many places in India at that time. So he says, no, no, no. So at that time, Narendranath Mallik said, Abhay, look, for 5 minutes, that's all. I'm telling you, you won't regret it. And he pulled his sleeve. So then Abhay Babu said, okay, only for 5 minutes I will come. He says, that's fine. And if you don't like what you see or don't hear what you like, you can leave. So that was the condition. So number 1 Ulta Danga Road in Kolkata, in a very old building, even today it's there. One should go when you all go take darshan. On the terrace, one wonderful personality, very grave, with round-rimmed glasses, tall sannyasi, sitting, he was speaking Harikatha. And Abhay Babu and Narendranath Mallik, they went and sat in the back. They offered their obeisances as per the Vedic culture. And as soon as this great personality, was none other than Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, saw them, in particular, Abhay Charan Das, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati directly looked at him and says that you are educated men. Why don't you preach Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's gospel or the Vani, Gauravani, to the Western countries? These are the instructions. First instruction, after the pravachan, just like when we have our katha in ISKCON and many places, there is a question answer session. So Abhay Babu said, Swamiji, I have a question. He says, yes, is this. He said, what is your question? He says, our first duty is right now not preaching Mahaprabhu's Vani. Our first duty, our dharma, is to free our country from the clutches of the British Empire. We are talking about 1922. India got independence in 1947. So that is our dharma, that is our goal of life. Right now, all a true Indian by spirit will fight for the Swaraj, for the independence of India. So then, what is the reply Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur gave? Amazing, amazing, that changed the life of Abhay Babu. He said that, you're talking about freedom. Are we really free? Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, these 4 things are forced upon us in this material world. Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadhi. Birth, death, old age and disease are forced upon us. Where is the question of freedom in this material world? The kind of freedom that I'm talking about is the freedom of the soul. What is the guarantee today that you are fighting in this Indian Swaraj movement, in this Andolan to free Bharat? But what is the guarantee? A few years down the road, a few decades down, a few centuries down the road, India will become a slave again, or as a matter of fact, any country can be annexed and they can become slaves by another country. We saw it in the recent years. In the last 2-3 decades, we found that Saddam Hussein took over Kuwait, and then Kuwait was freed by the United States, and then United States took over Iraq. And like that, we see history. Alexander the Great, he came to many, many places in the history, and he kept on conquering all the places that he went to, and then different kings came, and the different kings conquered. So, and Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada made a very good point. He said that, I remember this sentence from the Lilamrit. He says that politicians will change, but politics will not change. Very, very nice sentence. Amazing. So politicians will come and go, but politics will never change. It doesn't matter. Even today we find that whether it is XYZ as a prime minister or we have Narendra Modi, at the end of the day, it's all about sense gratification. None of them are devotees. None of them are. Some of them are on a subtle level. Maybe they're not interested in money to fill their pockets. That's what I hear about our present prime minister in India. But there is a subtlety in it. It's nothing to do with bhakti. It's nothing to do with pleasing Krishna. So it is all about getting the votes at the end of the day. That's okay. That's what they have. That's what they can. But we should not misconstrue them as devotees of great. Some people consider Modi as God. Some people consider him as a great Messiah. That is so much nonsense to consider such mortals as such, to give them that stature of Vaishnavas and devotees of the Lord. So, Bhakti Siddhanta Prabhupada said that. So the freedom that I'm talking about is permanent freedom from birth, death, old age, and disease. The freedom of the soul. When we come into the material world, we are forced to take a body in the 8,400,000 species of life based on the karma. Karmana deva netrena dehu jantu upapate. Srimad Bhagavatam says, under the supervision of the Supreme Lord and due to the karma, one is forced to take birth. So like this, it is due to the influence of nature one acts upon. One is under the influence of karma, and under the influence of karma there is a non-stop cycle that is impossible to break in this material world. So where is the question of freedom? The freedom that I'm talking about is the freedom of the soul, the freedom of serving Radha and Krishna eternally, wherever one is situated. And of course, one goes back home, back to God, into the spiritual world, and there's no question of birth, death, old age, and disease. There's no question of one being forced. That is the real freedom. When Abhay Babu heard that, he was so amazingly shocked, but pleasantly, he went home and he told his father, Gaur Mohan De, Baba, I have found my Guru. Today I was defeated in an argument, but I was very, very happy. When we get defeated in logic or an argument in some kind of a debate, the person who is defeated is not happy. But here, Abhay Babu tells his father, I was very pleased. I found my Guru. And that's how he mentally surrendered back in 1922 to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And then, obviously, Srila Prabhupada had to go around about his business in the pharmaceutical industry. In 1928, he was situated in Allahabad, and there the Gaudiya Math was established. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur had established 64 Gaudiya Maths all over Bharat, all over India, and one of them was in Allahabad. And in Allahabad, he used to assist his senior godbrother, a sannyasi, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj. Just like sometimes when we find sadhus or sannyasis, when they come to our town or city, what do? We take them around, we offer them prasadam, we drive them to the home programs, we arrange nam hattas, we arrange kirtan, we arrange katha. So like that, Abhay Babu used to arrange that for Srila Sridhar Maharaj, one of his senior godbrothers who was a sannyasi. And Sridhar Maharaj was very pleased with his services. And they had a wonderful bonding. Although he was senior, but he always treated him like a brother, Sridhar Maharaj. So Srila Prabhupada mentions about Sridhar Maharaj quite a bit. And he also mentions that after I'm gone, he told the GBC and he told many ISKCON leaders, you can take guidance from Sridhar Maharaj. But unfortunately, some of these people who after Prabhupada's disappearance, they became so high-handed and they felt that they themselves have become Krishna. And most of them fell down. They committed offenses to some of the senior godbrothers of Srila Prabhupada. So all these things, we should be very careful. Prabhupada can call his godbrother nonsense. Prabhupada can call that he can make a statement, my godbrothers are useless. They are simply ringing the bell and going to sleep in the Gaudiya Math. They don't do anything. That is his right. It is not our right. Just like our father and our uncle. My father can say anything to his uncle and my uncle can say anything to my father. But me, as a nephew or as a son, I cannot use that language, or I cannot use the same thing what my father said. That as it is concept doesn't work. Or Prabhupada said that his God brothers are useless. Who are we? We don't even know how to control our senses. And these personalities were personally initiated and they had the darshan of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. And we are here to comment on them. Look at examine our own lives. We cannot live without pizza, pasta, and we are gluttonous. Even after taking sannyas, we want all those long lists of organic food. And we want to criticize those great personalities. We call some of them on the Vyasasan, they use the word Bhakti Siddhanta, as if we played cricket with them. My dear devotees, never ever make that mistake. It is a great offense. We call Prabhupada Srila Prabhupada, but his Gurudev Bhakti Siddhanta. It is Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur at the minimum, or Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada. And that is how he should be addressed. And we want pure bhakti, we want Krishna Prem. He is known as Sri Varsha Bhanvi Daitaya Das. Given the name was given by Srila Gaur Krishna Babaji Maharaj. What does it mean? Just like when we are in my Guru Maharaj gave me the name Satchitananda Dasa upon first initiation. When hopefully in this lifetime, if I take sannyas, my sannyas name will change into a different name. But Sri Varsha Bhanvi Devi, who is that? That's Srimati Radharani, the divine daughter of Vrishabhanu, King Vrishabhanu. Varsha Bhanvi Devi, Daitaya Das. Daitaya means very dear. Das means servitor, a manjari, a gopi that serves Srimati Radharani, a kinkari. And we have the audacity to say Bhakti Siddhanta said this, Bhakti Vinod said this. Come on, wake up. On one hand, we are chanting the holy names. And the second aparad, the first aparad, it says that blaspheming the devotees who are dedicated in preaching the holy names. Who can be more dedicated than his all these divine graces in the Gaudiya line? And we call them by their first names. It is because this Western culture, they cannot give it up because they call their father John, they call their stepmother Mary. The same concept they try to use. They call their grandfather Paul. So the same thing. That kind of concept they're bringing to the Guru Parampara. It is not acceptable, my dear devotees. So those who are listening, at least we should be careful. And when we use such nomenclature, Prabhupada, have you heard Prabhupada say the Jaitwani? Jayom Vishnupat Paramanso Parivajagacharya Ashtottara Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. That is how we address this Guru Maharaj. We want to please Prabhupada, don't we? Then we have to be very careful. We have to love and we have to also show great awe and reverence towards our acharyas. Until and unless we don't display that, then, it is like an anchor that we drop from a boat, and the boat is only going to move as long as the rope or the length of the chain of that anchor is. We will never progress, no matter how many mantras we chant or how many bhakti vrukshas we attend or we conduct, or how many bhakti shastris or bhakti vaibhavs we conduct. It is all a educational exercise. It's got nothing to do with bhakti. Bhakti starts from home by giving the proper. What is that Guru Puja that we sing of Narottam Das Thakur every day? Shri Guru Charana Padma Kevala Bhakti Sadma Bando Moi Saudhan Mate Jahar Prasade Bhai Ye Bhava Tori Ajaye Krishna Prapti Hoite Jahan Hoite. Saudhan Mate. We sing it, but how many of us really feel it? Bando Moi Saudhan Mate. So, like this, Allahabad, 1933, Abhay Charna Ravind Das, Abhay Charna Ravind De becomes Abhay Charna Ravind Das. He was initiated. And he says that when I was first introduced to Guru Maharaj, yes, Guru Maharaj said, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, I will initiate this boy. He is very nice. These were his comments. He hears me very patiently. This is the quality. Even when when Prabhupada used to go, Abhay Charana Ravinda Prabhupada used to go to business trips, he used to get down in Mathura on the way. Braj Mandal Parikrama is going on. My Guru Maharaj is there. And he would just suddenly get down at the train station and he would attend all the different Hari Kathas, every word that was spoken by Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati used to chastise some of his disciples. He likes to learn from him. Because some of them, they would go when they were in the Vraj Mandal Parikrama or they were in Vrindavan Dham. When Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada was speaking, they would go in the different temples, take darshan, etc. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada used to say, darshan can be taken when we hear from the Guru's mouth, from the Acharya's mouth. When the Guru Maharaj is speaking, then at that time, higher than going around here and there is listening to him. And that's what Abhay Charana Ravinda Das said. He said, I will initiate him. That was the words of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati. He does not like to go away. So this was a punch to some of his disciples. Like many of you just go away when Harikatha begins. We see that even today in our temples. So many so-called senior devotees, they never come in and sit in any Harikatha. They think that they know it all. They do not need to hear it anymore. So this is not done. We should dedicate the time. We always remember one thing that I tell myself, we always learn something from a devotee. Always something first time we hear. Because when they're sitting on the Vyasasana, if there is sincerity, it is Sri Krishna as Chaitya Guru who makes them speak. It is Srila Prabhupada and the Guru Parampara empowers them. And there's always a two-way benefit. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's words. When you're preaching minimum to two persons. Srila Prabhupada used to quote this quite a lot. First to yourself and then to the other. Such wonderful. Another wonderful quotation. Do not try to see Krishna. Perform your seva in such a way that if Krishna is satisfied, he will see you. That is pure devotion. That is the summum bonum of Gaudiya Vaishnavism. That is a summum bonum. We do not disturb Krishna. Ashlasya padaratam pinashtumam adarshanam marma harto karotuva yatha tathava vidato lampato mat prananathasya evanapara. Whether you kick me or embrace me, you are the transcendental autocrat. And you are my life and soul. Mat prananatha. And there's nobody else. So evanapara. That is the bhav of the gopis. That is the bhav of Sri Radha. That is the bhav of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So that is the bhav. When we speak about Gaudiya bhav, that is what it is. We should not miss these important instructions. Do not try to see Krishna. We all have this eagerness. We want to go back to Godhead, back to Godhead, back to Godhead. More than chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, back to Godhead, back to Godhead. None of our acharyas, our Gaudiya acharyas, have requested that in their personal bhajan. Read Bhaktivinoda Thakur's bhajans, Narottam Das Thakur's bhajans, and all our Gaudiya Vaishnava acharyas. Back to Godhead is some kind of a pralobhan to entice the devotees. Oh, you chant properly, and in this lifetime you will go back to God. Going back to Godhead is not important. It is if Krishna wants, yes, I will go for his pleasure. Svargeshu Darkeshu Apavargeshu Samatulya Darshana. For a Vaishnava, whether it is going to the heavenly planets or to the hellish planets, or going to Apavarga, means the Vaikuntha planets, spiritual world, Samatulya Darshana. One great Vaishnava, his famous bhajan, Vaishnav Janto Tene Kaiye Je Peeda Parai Jane, Narsi Mehta, a pure devotee of Lord Krishna. He says in one of the bhajans, pure devotional song that is exactly in line of the Gaudiya Vaishnavism. He says that Harina Janto Mukti na mange Janama Janama Utarare Nitya Kirtan Nitya Ocho Nirakhva Nanda Kumara. The pure Vaishnavas, Mukti na mange, they never ask for liberation. They never say, I want to go back to God. Janama Janama Autare. Birth after birth, I would like to come back based on my karma. Tatya Anukampam Susikshamana Bhunjana Eva Atma Kritav Pakam. Lord Brahma in the 11th canto, he's mentioning this wonderful prayer. According to my karma, Tatya Anukampam, Susiksha bhunjana eva atma krita vipakam. Based on my karma, whatever my karma is, vipakam, when it is come to fruition, let me be born. But one thing, let me never forget devotional service. Similarly, Bhaktivinoda Thakur says, Kita janma hoilo ja yatha tu adas bahirmukha janma brahma janma nahi mor as. Even if I'm born in the bhajan manasa deha geha jo kuch more, arpili tuapade nanda kishore. Even if I don't deserve to be born as a human being, I'm in a low species of life. If I'm born as a kita, as an insect, my one request to you, Krishna, is I'm not requesting you that a human form be given. I'm not requesting you to take me back to Godhead. That's out of question. Even if I'm going to be born as an insect, kita janmo hoilo ja. But where? Yatha tuadas. Tuadas means in the house of a devotee. Bahirmukha Brahma janma nahi moras. Even if I get the opulence of the sixth heavenly planet of Brahmaloka, I prefer to give it up. If I'm averse to you, if I get all the opulence and if I'm not Krishna conscious, even if somebody gives me the opulence of the sixth heaven of Brahmalok, Bahirmukha Brahma janma nahi moras. I do not have that desire. So do not try to see Krishna. Perform your service in such a way that Krishna, when he is pleased, he will see you. That is Anukulina Krishna Anushilanam Tad Bhakti Ruttam Narad Bhakti Sutra and Bhakti Rasam Sutra, Bhakti Rasam Sindhu. Rupa Goswami also mentions this, that whatever pleases Krishna, that is pure devotional service. Prabhupada did not lie. Another very important point that I would like to bring home from a Rasik angle, when he says that if you chant 16 good rounds and follow the 4 regulative principles, you will go home back to Godhead. Yes, but back to Godhead could also mean the millions and millions of planets in Vaikuntha. That does not mean Golok Vrindavan. If Prabhupada wanted, he would have said Golok. Because one who sincerely chants, even a personality like a Jamil, unknowingly taking the name of Narayan, he was later on, promoted to Vaikuntha. A plane came from Vaikuntha and he went back home to Godhead. Prabhupada never said back home to Supreme Personality of Godhead, Nandan. So Prabhupada knows some of the other one chants and does refrain from the impious activities, then at the end, naturally, Krishna is so kind. If he's kind on a Jamil, he will be kind on those devotees, and they will eventually go back home, back to God. But going to Golok Vrindavan, going to Vraj Bhumi is a totally different. Unless and until we enter Ragatmika Bhakti or Raganuga Bhakti, it is not possible. It's something that we need to analyze, food for thought. From Sadhana Bhakti, we must graduate into Rasik Raganuga Bhakti, following in the footsteps of the Vrajvasis. So, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, he does not go away. So that was my qualification. Prabhupada mentions humbly, it was the high standard of philosophy he was speaking at that time. Prabhupada admits that I could not follow, but I still like to hear him. This is what it is. In 1936, the last year, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's Vyas Puja, Srila Prabhupada, A.C. Bhakti Swami Srila Prabhupada was in Mumbai at the Gaudiya Math in Gwalior Tank in central Bombay. And there he was again still on work, on business. But he was a wonderful, pure Vaishnava. A pure Vaishnava has many, many good qualities, especially they're very good poets. Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kave Muhyanti Yat Surya. The first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam, Om Janmadi Yasya Yato Anvayad Itartascha Artheshu Abhigya Swarat Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kave. This Kam Gayatri, or this transcendental knowledge, was first given by Lord Krishna of Golok Vrindavan, Nandan. Tene Brahma. Brahma means this transcendental knowledge. Hridaya, in the heart of Adi Kavi. Adi Kavi means Lord Brahma. We see that wonderful picture on the Brahma Samhita where Krishna plays the flute, and through the sound vibration, he initiates Lord Brahma. But that's Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavi. And then Lord Brahma is the Adi Kavi. He's not called Lord Brahma there. See, that is the beauty. Because he's a Vaishnava, he's an Adi Kavi, the first poet. Because he's the first created being. in the universe, in a particular universe. So and we know Brahma Samhita. Samhita means a collection of prayers. Amazing compositions Lord Brahma has composed. So that is why the Adi Kavi. So Abhay Babu was also dubbed by in the Gaudiya Math as Kaviraj. He wrote an English poem in English, eulogizing Shrila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and offering on his last Vyas Puja 1936. Adore, adore ye all the happy day, blessed than heaven, sweeter than May, when he appeared at Puri, the holy place, my Lord and Master, his divine grace. O my Master, the evangelic angel, give us thy light, light up thy candle, struggle for existence, a human race, the only hope, his divine grace. Misled we are, going astray, save us, Lord, our fervent pray. Wonder thy ways to turn our face, adore thy feet, your divine grace. Forgotten Krishna, we fallen souls, paying most the illusion's toll. Darkness around, all untraced. The only hope, his divine grace. Just see how Srila Prabhupada is glorifying his spiritual master in English. Message of service thou hast brought, a healthful life as Chaitanya wrought, unknown to all, it's full of grace. That's your gift, your divine grace. Absolute is sentient, thou hast proved. Impersonal calamity, thou hast moved. This gives us a life anew and fresh. Worship thy feet, your divine grace. Amazing. This is what Srila Prabhupada wrote. Had you not come, who had told the message of Krishna, forceful and bold? That's your right. You have the mace. Save me, a fallen, your divine grace. The line of service as drawn by you is pleasing and healthy, like morning dew, the oldest of all, but in a new dress. Miracle done, your divine grace. When Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur received this offering in Kolkata, he was so pleased. Especially, he showed it to everybody. This is my disciple, Abhay Charnaravinda Das. He has written this poem in English. Especially, he kept on reading this particular verse. Absolute ascension, thou hast moved. Impersonal calamity, thou hast moved. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was very well known for cutting all that nonsense philosophy of the Mayavadis and proving that the Supreme Lord is a person. Absolute is sentient. Sentient means a person, a full of consciousness, not some light, not some energy. You have proved it. Impersonal calamity, thou hast moved. You have removed that great musibat, that calamity of impersonalism or Mayavadis. Like this. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur instructed everyone. Whatever Abhay Babu writes, Abhay Charnaravinda Das writes, you must publish. Because some of the editors of the Harmonist or the Sajjan Toshani, they would, kind of be reluctant, but it was Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada's orders. Whatever Abhay Charnaravinda Das, you must publish. That's how Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was. He used to see how many times in one sentence, in one line, the name of Krishna appeared. That was some of his ways to quickly have a quick check on an essay or on some kind of a composition. The pure message of devotion, how much or at what intensity does it appear? But nowadays, we find that so many people are writing their books, promoting their books, not promoting Prabhupada's books, hardly using the word Krishna. They substitute by the name the divine, the transcendental. What is wrong with saying Krishna? That's what Prabhupada did. Dharmasva tattva nihitam guhyam mahajana jena kathasapantaha. Following in the footsteps of the great Vaishnavas. That is proper. That is the proper system. In 1936, the final order from his spiritual master to preach to the West. It was during the Vrajmandal Parikrama in 1936 on the banks of Radhakund. Abhay Babu or Abhay Charnaravinda Das Prabhu with his little young son Vrindavan Das was walking, and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, very special instructions. On the highest place in this creation, the transcendental place is Radhakund. We find that evidence in the nectar of instruction of Rupa Goswami. Among in Rajmandal, Mathura is considered very wonderful, and higher than Mathura is Vrindavan, and higher than Vrindavan is Barsana, higher than Barsana is Govardhan, and within Govardhan, the highest is Radhakund. So here it is no such coincidence. It is by the lotus feet of Radha Rani, because Radhakund is non-different from Sri Radha and her associates. Radhakund is right next to Krishna Kund, right there with Shyamsundar Krishna, in the presence, in the chief goddess of Vrindavan, or the goddess Vrindavaneshwari. In the presence of Vrishabhanusute, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, when you get money, print books. Instructions of Bhakti Vinod Thakur, the Brihat Madranga, the printing press. And he also mentioned, after I leave, as if he knew he was going to leave in a few months, Agun Jolibe, in the Gaudiya Math, there will be a fire. It's just an allegorical term, meaning some of my disciples will start fighting. Who will become Acharya? Who will take this room? Who will take that? They will be fighting over bricks and marble. So that was the indication. And every time a great Acharya leaves, there is a chaos. Whether it is a Satyavis avatar like Jesus Christ, or it is somebody that we find like Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur in recent years, or in our ISKCON movement when Srila Prabhupada left. ISKCON was, there were a lot of problems. Somehow or the other, Prabhupada's mercy is still continuing. So we are able to hold on. But that is bound to happen. That's what my Guru Maharaj said, that whenever a great Acharya passes away, at that time, there is going to be chaos. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur very wonderfully, already he knows in a few months he's going to leave. He was in a very deep meditative mood in 1936. In October, he decided to go after the Vrajmandal Parikrama, or after visiting Radhakund, back to his birthplace, Viyogini Radha Kshetra. That's where he was in a very deep meditation, feeling that great separation from Radharani. Intense, acute separation. He resided at the Chatak Parvat. Chatak Parvat in Puri is non-different from Govardhan. So there is a very famous picture of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Actually, he is not bald. He's got some hair. Somehow like, short hair like mine, or perhaps a little bit more shorter, and no glasses. And he is sitting at a desk and he's writing something. And that last picture was at the Chatak Parvat in Govardhan. And then he comes back to Kolkata, the main headquarters, Bhag Bazar. In a very deep meditative mood, he also used to say in the last days, it is in this life that we have to serve the Lord. So we should not waste it. So we can give eternal service at the lotus feet of our eternal Lord. We should not waste any time. He expressed his desire to celebrate Annakut when he was at Chatak Parvat in Puri. And he says that wonderful. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur quoting him. By the petition of a Vaishnava, merciful Krishna will give his mercy to the sinful soul. This we have to remember all the time. So Krishna is, Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu. He is an ocean of mercy. But if a Vaishnava makes a petition, no matter how sinful that Vaishnava is, Krishna must listen to him. So that is how the kind of mercy that we are the recipients under the shelter of his divine grace. We are all indeed fallen. Our lives, are not that perfect of a Vaishnava. We are all struggling. But somehow or the other, as long as we try to please Srila Prabhupada, and if Prabhupada makes a petition, there's no way Krishna can deny that. Bhaktivinoda Thakur in the Sharanagati introductory song says, Sharanga Sharanagati hoi vijar tar prarthana shune Brajendra Kumar. If one is fully surrendered with the 6 branches of surrender, Dainya, Atma Nivedana, Goptirte Varan, Avasya Rakshive Krishna, Vishwasya Palan, Bhakti Anukulya Karya Karejo Svikar, Bhakti Pratikul Bhav Varjan Angikar, which is the same as Gopal Bhatta Goswami mentions in the Hari Bhakti Vilas, Anukulisya Sankalpa, Pratikulyasya Varjanam, the 6 different branches of Sharanagati, or the full surrender. So if a Vaishnava of that stature, Sharanga Sharanagati hoi vichar, tar prarthna shune Brajendra Kumar, the Sarananda Maharaj has to listen to his prayer. Look at the compassion. Quoting again Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. If a god brother falls from the platform of service to Sri Hari, Guru and Vaishnava, they should think your own brother is falling down. We should feel that. We are all God brothers and sisters, not because we are initiated by a particular guru, we are God brothers and God sisters. This concept we should give up. That groupism attitude we should give up. Narottam Das Thakur has displayed that in that very famous bhajan, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Daya Karo More, Toma Vina Ke Dayalu Jagat Samsare, Patita Pavana Hetu Tava Utar, Mo Sama Pratita Prabhu Na Pai Bear. In the last line he's saying, Daya Karo Sri Acharya Prabhu Sri Nivas, Ramachandra Sangha Mange, Narottam Das. Srinivas Acharya was his contemporary god brother, not initiated. Srinivas Acharya was initiated by Gadadhar Pandit. And Narottam Das Thakur was initiated by Loknath Goswami. But they both took instruction, actually 3, one more, Shyamanand Pandit, was initiated by Hriday Chaitanya Thakur. But all these 3, Shyamanand Pandit, Narottam Das Thakur, and Srinivas Acharya, they all 3 studied under the same Shiksha Guru Jiva Goswami in Seva Kunj in Vrindavan, where today is the Radha Damodar temple. Jiva Goswami instructed them. So here in separation, Dayakara Sri Acharya Prabhu Srinivas, in separation of his god brother, although not initiated by the same spiritual master, Ramachandra Sangamangina, and Ramachandra was a Vaishnava, not that Ramachandra, Lord Ramachandra. Ramachandra Kaviraj, who was a disciple of Narottam Das Thakur, because he was so dear, he missed Ramchandra Kaviraj. That is the compassion we should have. Some of them in Toronto, we see they have some Guru Brothers group. Only they are invited to satsangs. Well, what are we? We have not taken shelter under Prabhupada. We have not taken shelter under Mahaprabhu. Why cannot satsangs be open to everyone? Special treatment is given. This is my Guru by Guru. And no. If a god brother falls down from the platform, god brother means anybody who has taken shelter in Mahaprabhu's family, under the shelter of Prabhupada, is a god brother. In our age group, let's put it that way, or in our, in our, you all get the point what I'm saying. That we cannot consider Srila Prabhupada and his god brothers as our god brothers, because they are first generation, we are second generation. But anybody in the second generation, in Mahaprabhu's line, are our God brothers and God sisters. He says, all of you preach about Sri Rupa and Raghunath with great enthusiasm. The supreme goal of our life is to become specks of dust at the lotus feet of the followers of Rupa Goswami. He said that repenting in a very humble mood, I have caused anxiety for many people, because he was very upfront, like even our Srila Prabhupada. When he left his body just a few days before in Vrindavan, the last few months, Prabhupada used to fold hands. Some of his God brothers used to come. He says that, please forgive me, I've committed offenses. He asked for forgiveness. Because when you are a preacher, you preach boldly. And during that, when in a war, when you are in war, and when you're firing bullets, then sometimes the bullets can go here and there, and some other people can also get injured or killed. But it's for a bigger cause. So when Srila Prabhupada, even he criticized his God brothers that they are simply ringing the bell in the Gaudiya Math and just simply sleeping, that was something to inspire them to join him in the mission of Mahaprabhu, in the mission of what Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada and what Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur wanted them to do. Sometimes a father, or sometimes a brother, or sometimes a good friend will use harsh words to inspire. So, but he still, when Srila Prabhupada, our AC Bhakti Swami Srila Prabhupada, when he was leaving the last few months, many Gaudiya Math Vaishnavas and his God brothers came. Prabhupada with folded hands said, please forgive us. And they also in return reciprocated, no. You are the commander-in-chief of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Sankirtan band. And a commander-in-chief can command in any way he likes, because he knows the ultimate goal. So, like this, there were tears exchanged between God brothers. One asking, similarly, even Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he says that I have caused anxiety for many people. Perhaps many people have considered me their enemy, because I was compelled to tell them the unadulterated truth. That is what it is, unadulterated as it is. My dear devotees, let's bear this torch. It doesn't matter. We are second generation, and perhaps we are our third generation and fourth generation. Let us not dilute our glorious movement in even an iota. Even at the expense of sometimes unknowingly causing any anxiety to somebody, which we should be always very apologetic internally, just like what Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Prabhupada in the last days he mentioned. He said, I asked them to serve the Lord with all sincerity. That's all I have asked. I've given them much anxiety to many people only because I wanted to inspire them to serve Krishna sincerely, without material desire and duplicity, without kutaniti. And then he exasperates and he says, one day they will understand. One day. Finally, he speaks about Sri Radha in his last days. All individual souls are spiritual females. Yes. Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhoktaram sarva yajna tapasyam. I am the enjoyer. I am the bhokta. So if he is the enjoyer, then everybody else is Prakriti. Or Prakriti means female. By consciousness, by nature. This is a very high concept that we have to understand without kind of getting into this materialistic, feminist, and male chauvinism thing. Please, because those are mundane concepts. So I just want to warn everybody. Otherwise, somebody will say that, this is not right, for females, or this is not right for males. This is on a transcendental platform. And on a transcendental platform, everybody, in terms of, in the Gaudiya Sampradaya, we are in the Madhurya Rasa, in the Gopi Bhav. So our thinking, feeling, willing should be like the gopis. So that's what Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada is pointing out. that all individual souls are spiritual females in a subordinate position of Sri Radhika. So even amongst the females, it's not that we have a predominant position, even if we obtain our spiritual body or spiritual destination in the Madhurya Rasa. Because Sri Radhika, whose service to Sri Krishna, they naturally share by the nature as constituents. That is the goal. So here he is implying very clearly that we are actually Dasa Nudas of Sri Radha, and Radha Dasyam is our ultimate goal in Gaudiya Vaishnavism. And when we please Sri Radha, naturally, by default, Krishna gets pleased. The object of endeavor of the soul is to learn to obey Sri Radhika. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur quoting him. Only by obeying Sri Radhika can they serve Sri Krishna. So these are some of the personal words that the Vaishnava Thakur spoke. And then early in the morning, on this day, 1936, December 31st, at about 5:30 in the Brahma Muhurat, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur requests one particular wonderful song to be sung. Actually, two songs he requested. One is Sri Rupa Manjari Pada, and the other one is Tuhu Doya Shagara Tariyati Prani by Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. And the first one, Sri Rupa Manjari Pada by Srila Narottam Das Thakur. So my dear devotees, as I'm coming to some conclusion here, I would really appreciate the rapt attention, because this will give us a glimpse of what our Gaudiya Vaishnava Parampara is all about, what our Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is all about. Perhaps you all may have heard many lectures on his appearances and disappearances. I don't know how many speakers have touched upon all these different nuances, but since I'm able to, I will certainly share them with all of you. He calls upon, please sing this bhajan, Sri Rupa Manjari Pada. And what is this bhajan? He says, Narottam Das Thakur's bhajan, Sri Rupa Manjari Pada, Shei Mora Sampada, Shei Mora Bhajana Pujana, Shei Mora Prana Dhana, Shei Mora Abharana, Shei Mora Jivana Jivana. If you all know the melody, Shri Rupa Manjari Pada, Shei Mora Sampada, Shei Mora Bhajana Pujana, Shei Mora Bhajana Pujana. Just when he's about to leave his body, he requests this bhajan. He says, Narottam Das Thakur, with that consciousness, and which is what he has requested, please sing this. So one very famous Kirtani of the Gaudiya Math comes forward to sing it, but Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur stops him. And he asks for His Holiness Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, the senior godbrother of Srila Prabhupada, who Srila Prabhupada used to serve in Allahabad. You sing this for me. So the Guru knows, because he was present at that time. The Guru knows the purity of a devotee. It is not the singing that is important, it's not the melody, but it's with what intensity in the heart that devotee and how much he has really understood the heart of Narottam Das Thakur, the heart of Mahaprabhu, the heart of Rupanugas. That's important. So he said, you sing it. I recollect in one of the essays I had read many years ago, Srila Sridhar Maharaj writes that I don't even know how to sing. I croak like a frog. But Prabhupada asked me to sing. Prabhupada means here Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So he starts singing this song. And what is the essence? This will give us a glimpse a true glimpse of who Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is. And also we can connect the dots with his divine grace Srila Prabhupada. A.C. Bhakti Srila Prabhupada. Narottam Das Thakur says, Sri Rupa Manjari Pada Shei Mora Sampada. The lotus feet of Rupa Manjari is indeed my only treasure. Shei Mora Bhajana Pujan. That is my bhajan. That is my worship. Shei Mora Prana Dhana. That is my life and soul. That is my treasure. My wealth. Shei Mora Abharana. That is my jewelry. Shei Mora Jivanera Jivanera. That is my life of life. The lotus feet of Rupa Manjari. Rupa Manjari means Rup Goswami. Shei Mura Rosanidhi. Out of all the different mellows, including the ocean of the Madhurya Ras, the lotus feet of Rup Goswami is that mellow, that ocean of nectar. Shei Mura Vancha Siddhi. Whatever I speak, whatever perfections I have attained, it is indeed because of the lotus feet or the mercy of Rup Goswami. Shei Mura Vedera Dharam. That is indeed my Vedas, the lotus feet of Rup Goswami. My dharam, that is indeed my duty, the worship of the lotus feet of Rup Goswami. Shei Vrata, Shei Tapa, Shei Mura Mantra Japa. That is my vrata, my fasting, or my austerities, or the mantra japa. It is by his mercy. Shei Mora Dharma Karma. That is my duty. The lotus feet or the service of Sri Rupa Manjari or Rupa Goswami. Sri Rupa Manjari Pada. Manjari, I had mentioned this previously, I believe so, in one of the everyday Harinam chant conference classes, and some of the devotees who gathered on Zoom. In Golok or in Vrindavan, the females are known as gopis, and gopis are all of different types. There are senior gopis that are of Vatsalya Rasa, who show affection towards Krishna with a parental love. And then there are gopis or the young maidens, some married and some unmarried, who are in love in paramour relationship or in Madhurya Rasa. Amongst them, we know the Ashtasakis of Radharani, etc., like Lalita, Vishaga, Tungavidya, Sudevi, Rangadevi, etc. So those are all the inner circle of Sri Radha. And they're all married gopis. They have husbands. Even Radharani herself has a husband. So like this, they're all married. And then there are certain gopis that are unmarried. They're known as Manjaris. Even Lord Balram, who is Radharani's younger sister, is known as, in the Madhurya Rasa, enacts the role as a female gopi known as Ananga Manjari. And she is one of the exceptions. She is the only one who is married. But most of the Manjaris are unmarried. And they are younger in age, maybe by a few days or a month, to the Ashtasakis, etc. And also younger to Radharani. But their services of a very, very high importance. They're also known as Kinkaris. Kim means what, and Kari means to do. Just like, sometimes we give a nickname. If somebody always says something, come here, come here, come here, come here. So we call him, oh, come here has come, because that person is always saying those words. So Kim Kari in Vrindavan, these young gopis, they're always so enthusiastic about serving Radharani and Krishna. Then what else can I do? One service is still yet to be finished. And once it's about to be finished, what else can I do? How else can I serve? What can I do? What is it? That is Kim in Sanskrit means what? And Kari means to do. Some action. What else can I do? Non-stop. So it's a very special. And all our Gaudiya Acharyas, like Rup Goswami is Rup Manjari. Sanatan Goswami is Labanga Manjari. Like this, we have all these different acharyas who are in this line. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is Vinod Manjari. Baldev Vidyabhushan is Ratnavali Manjari. Also, he is Gopinath Acharya in the Chaitanya Leela. Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj is Rasika Manjari. Bhaktivinoda Thakur is Kamla Manjari. Gaur Krishna Babaji Maharaj is Guna Manjari, and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is Nayana Manjari. So these Manjaris are all actually, their leader is Rupa Manjari or Rup Goswami and Labanga Manjari or Sanatan Goswami. So this is how he is actually praying when he is leaving his body, that Sri Rupa Manjari Pada Sei Mora Sampada, that is indeed my treasure. Like that, he's saying, Anukula Hobe Vidhi, Sei Pada Hoibe Siddhi. And if Krishna so desires, Radharani so desires, I will obtain the perfection of Radha Dasyam by the mercy of Rupa Manjari. Nirakhibo ei dui noyane. Please, Rupa Manjari, keep me within the purview of your vision, vision of your two eyes. Dui noyane. Shei Rupa Madhuri Rasi Prana Kuvalya Sashi. This Rupa Manjari is like that full-blown moon that illuminates all objects in the night. That is Rup Manjari. Prana Kuvalya Sashi. And she is the life of this, of the life-giving moon. Prafulita Hobe Nishidine. Please be pleased upon me day and night, O Rup Manjari. Tua Darshanahi. Not being able to see you, O Rup Manjari. Garale Jaralo Dehi. My heart is burning. Chirodina Tapita Jivana. My life out of separation is full of it's boiling. Tapita, tapat means to boil. You feel that pain, that burnt. Haha Rupa Karodaya Deho More Padachaya Narottama Lailu Sharana. Narottam Das Thakur is saying, Haha Rupa Karodaya, O Rup Goswami, O Rupa Manjari, please have mercy on me. Narottama Lailu Sharana. And Narottam Das Thakur, who himself is none other than Vilas Manjari, Champaklata Manjari, he himself is asking the mercy of Rup Goswami or Rup Manjari. So here we see that at the time when he's leaving his body, he requests this special bhajan. And that shows that he is a very, very dear servant of Rup Manjari. Rup Manjari is a very dear servant of Lalita Sakhi. In turn, Lalita Sakhi always entrusts with all the special services of Radharani when the Ashta Sakhis and all the Sakhis are not present to Rup Manjari. And Rup Manjari is the director to the other Manjaris. And these Manjaris have such a very special place that even Krishna sometimes falls at their lotus feet. Yes, I really don't have the time to go into all those details. But sometimes when Radharani goes into the man mood or the sulkiness mood, and when she says that I don't want to see Krishna, he's a liar, he's a cheater, his heart is black, he's black. He promised to come at a certain time and he's not shown. I'm waiting for him. I've decorated the entire bower or the Nikunja. So now if he shows up, don't let him in. So Lalita and Vishakha and all the Astasakis and the gopis, they guard the Kunja with sticks. And when Krishna comes, he says, I'm sorry, I'm late. Please forgive me. Tell Radharani I'm here. And Lalita and Vishakha, they are so upset. They say, get out or we're going to beat you. And they sometimes even beat him with sticks because it's instructions of Radha. Radharani is the first service, object of service. Then it is Krishna. If Radharani is pleased, then service to Krishna will flow. But if Radharani is not pleased, then Krishna's service, and Krishna is the arch enemy. Just like I've given this example, that sometimes we find that when a couple, a husband and wife, when everything is very nice and happy, and when the wife goes home and she describes this to her mother or to a sister or to a best friend, then they will gloat about the wife's husband. Oh, he's such a gentle person. Oh, he's so wonderful. He's so sweet. The mother-in-law will tell everyone and the sister will tell everyone and this and that. But on the other hand, when there is some kind of a quarrel or a disagreement, and when they are fighting, and when the wife goes home and says, you know what, this is what he did to me, he made me cry, and this and that, and she will complain, and and he was so rude to me. So mother says, and the father will says, Betty, don't worry, you don't need to go back. He's a rascal. They will change that opinion immediately within a fraction of a second. Leave him. If he calls you, don't pick up his phone. So same thing, Lalita, Vishakha, even Radha Samsundar says that, next time you see him, you are very soft-hearted, Radharani. You're very soft-hearted. So when he sees you next time, your heart will melt, but don't let your heart melt and don't let him fool you again. So these are all transcendental Madhurya Rasa pastimes that are beyond our scope at the moment to understand them when we are still struggling with our sadhana bhakti. So at that time, when the gopis say no, then Krishna approaches the manjaris, the young gopis. Go now, tell her I'm here. Once she knows that I'm here, actually I know she's burning in anger, but she really wants me. But somebody has to convey, and these Lalita and Vishaka and their gang is not allowing. So why don't you go? So then Krishna falls at the feet of Rup Manjari, of Labhanga Manjari, and like this, all these Manjaris as says go. And then the Manjaris, they're always one thing they have their heart, which is a very specialty in the specialty of the Swapaksha gopis of Radharani. They're always enthusiastic in the union of Radha Krishna. And they never want to enjoy Krishna. Sometimes the gopis enjoy Krishna in the sense that Lalita even got married to Krishna. Radharani herself, seats her on a swing. There is a town very close by to Barsana, where the town of Lalita Devi is there. And there is the Lalita Bihari Mandir. So like that, Radharani herself takes Krishna's hands, and sometimes, she puts them, another gopi, and Krishna embraces that gopi, and they have nice Madhurya Rasa interactions. But the Manjaris never desire that. So that is a very, very important distinction between the other Swapaksha gopis of Radharani and the Manjaris. So our acharyas are that. So Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is Nayana Manjari. And somebody asked Prabhupada, who are you? So Prabhupada said, if I tell you who I am, you will faint. So Prabhupada left that as a secret. He did not reveal that. But we find that through the pranam mantra, and when we study the different words that eulogize our acharyas, we immediately get an idea that they are very, very close servitors of Sri Radha. They are the dasis of Radharani, and they are very close to her. So, for example, we find that in the pranam mantra of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Namine. So I offer my humble obeisances to Vishnupad. What is that Vishnupad? So a few years ago, I did a seminar on Srila Prabhupada's pranam mantra in Sri Vrindavan Dham in our Krishna Balaram Mandir. It went on for a good 2 days. Namam Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschate Deshatarine. So that mantra thousands of devotees recited every day, but it's got a lot of deep rasic artha that leads to the service of Sri Radha. It is that those who are interested, they can go on the website. It is there in bhagavad.ca. If you can see that in the background, BAHAGAVATA.ca or pureseva.ca under Acharyas. There is a section under lectures, and also you will find it in the Vrindavan Mayapur TV archives, I believe so. Anyways, we're talking about Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and then we'll correct a couple dots, and then I will kind of conclude today. It will, going into the pranam mantra, that will give us an inner glimpse of how fortunate we are and who we have associated with. It's like, sometimes when we gloat, we meet a very big person in our materialistic life. Supposing if we get an opportunity to meet the prime minister or the president or the governor, and we take the selfie or the photographs, and then we, with a lot of gloating, we show it to everyone, everywhere. Oh wow. And then those photographs, the family members want to keep it and they want to show it to their friends and all. They gloat. My son met such a big person, such a big personality. But do we know, we as followers of Srila Prabhupada, of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, how fortunate we are that we are getting the association through Vani. Of course, some of them were very fortunate to get association in Vapu, in person. But we are getting the association of Vani of the topmost personalities in this entire creation, even within the Vaishnava Sampradaya and even within all the rasas or the mellows of Krishna Prema. We are getting that association by the mercy of His Divine Krishna Prabhupada, through his books and through the Vaishnava songs, etc. of the topmost personalities that whom Krishna Shyam Sundar himself reveres. Please, this is a very important point that I want to bring home. Perhaps I will get a chance again or not to speak with the same intensity, next year, on appearances or disappearance, because every time I speak something, some navaras always, some or the other, that blessing is flowing. So I'm sharing. So in his Pranam Mantra, the word Vishnupad is also used in our Prabhupada. The first line is common. Namam Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale. So in that, I offer my obeisances unto that personality, Krishna Preshthaya Bhutale. Namam Vishnupadaya. Why is the word Vishnupad used? So as Gaudiya Vaishnavas, we are not interested in Vishnu or Narayan. We are not Narayana Bhaktas or Vishnu Bhaktas, or even, as a matter of fact, other incarnations as Lord Ramachandra. Sometimes the most predominant deity besides Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we have is Lord Nrsimhadev. And Lord Nrsimhadev is of Vaikuntha, honestly speaking. But why do we worship? I was in New Vrindavan a few years ago giving a Srimad Bhagavatam class, and a certain point came up, and one devotee asked this question. Beautiful deities of Lord Nrsimhadev in New Vrindavan, along with Prahlad Maharaj. And honestly, I didn't know the answer at that time, but some inspiration came, and hopefully, later on it got verified also when I was reading some of the books of the Goswamis, especially Jiva Goswami's Gopal Champu. So when Krishna was very small, and when all the different demons and the demonesses came in Gokul, Mother Yashoda used to pray to Lord Nrsimhadev for his protection. Because in Golok or in Vrindavan, they do not know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But they do know that Vishnu is Paramatma, Narayan is the Supreme Lord, etc. And all the different incarnations. When Putna grabbed when Krishna, when he was only, I think, 3 days old, and then when he survived, Mother Yashoda performed the Panchagavya. She started sprinkling, purifying him with the 5 different items of the cows, the cow urine, the cow stool, the cow milk, etc., the ghee and the milk. And then also she started praying, "Oh Paramatma, oh you," and she used to sing that while churning butter, that it is by that, you are so fortunate that you were born in Nanda Maharaj's Yadu dynasty. Nanda Maharaj is a very good devotee, and because of his devotion to Vishnu, you got saved. Otherwise Putna would have killed you. Or because of the mercy of Paramatma, Parameshwar, you got saved by the Saktashur demon that came in the form of a cart, etc. So like that, even today when we go for Govardhan Parikrama, my good friend Nandpran Prabhu is here on Zoom. He knows that place. But on the inner part of the Govardhan Parikrama, not the outside, there is a 5,000-year-old Nrsimhadev deity that is even being worshipped today by the Vrajvasis. Not too far from Luk Dau, and just before Apsara and Naval Kund, just before we exit onto the Luk Dau, and then we continue to the main Parikrama Marg. So that is the reason for the worship of Nrsimhadev. But Vishnupad, what has Vishnu got to do with us? That is why in our Damodar Ashtakam, Satyavrat Muni rejects the devotion of Vaikuntha. Varam deva moksham na moksham avdimna nacha vrineyaham varishada piya idam te vapurnatham gopala balam sada me manasi avirashtam ki manye. I'm only interested in you in Golok Vrindavan, O Krishna, especially in your Gopal form. That is my rasa, that is my mellow. I'm not interested if you're going to give me benediction for mukti, or even liberation in Vaikuntha, or even the bhakti, nacha anya. Anya means the bhakti of Prahlad and Dhruv Maharaj, because that bhakti of Dasya Bhakti will take me to Vaikuntha, and I'm not interested in that. Very clearly I tell you that, oh Krishna. It's a subtle conversation between Satyavrat Muni and Krishna in the Damodar Ashtakam. We touched upon that very, very much in detail during the Kartik months when we spoke about the Damodar Ashtakam. But anyways, so Vishnupad here means, that shows that the word Vishnu is also being used by Satyavrat Muni in the 6th verse. Namo Deva Damodar Ananta Vishnu Prasiddha Prabho Dukkha Ajalabdi Magnam. So he has already given up the concept of Vaikuntha in the 4th verse. And then in the 6th verse, he sings Namo Deva Damodar Ananta Vishnu. So Sanatana Goswami in the Digdha Darshini explains that Vishnu means, the literal meaning in Sanskrit, if we translate that into English, means all pervading, one who is present everywhere or simultaneously present. So in Vraj Mandal, Krishna is simultaneously present, sometimes many places in Govardhan, sometimes in the caves of the Govardhan, sometimes in Radha Kund, sometimes in Shyam Kund, sometimes in Narad Kund, sometimes in Kusum Sarovar, sometimes in different places. He's present in Piri Pokhar near Barsana, sometimes he's present at Power Sarovar, simultaneously he's present at Ter Kadam, simultaneously he's present here and there, hither and thither. So that is the meaning of Vishnu. That is Shyam Sundar Krishna, who is amazing, that to satisfy the devotees of the different rasas in Vrindavan or in Vraj, he is simultaneously, just like he was simultaneously present with each and every gopi during the rasa dance. Prabhupada's purports, if we read that. So like that, because Krishna is very dear to his devotees and the devotees are very dear to him. So if somebody wants Krishna to perform, enact in the Vatsalya Ras, enact his eternal pastimes just as a baby, so Krishna is simultaneously present in the house of Nanda Maharaj, in the mahal, or in Yashoda Rani's house, and he is simply pulling her achal, her upper garment, asking for food, or wanting to suck her breast milk, or he is simply sometimes tired and he wants to go to sleep, and Mother Yashoda is seeing him, caressing him, putting him to sleep on bed, but he's simultaneously present in some gopi's house stealing butter. Simultaneously, he is present somewhere else in some other quarter of Braj. But that is why he is known as Vishnu. So I touched a little bit more in detail about that. So what does Vishnupad mean? As Gaudiya Vaishnavas, Vishnupad means it is that Nandan, Vrishabhanu Nandini's lover, Sri Krishna. That is that Vishnu who is abundantly present in Vraj Mandal. So Vishnupad, Nama Om Vishnupadaya. To that personality who has surrendered into the supreme personality of Godhead, the son of Nanda Maharaj, the son of Yashoda Mai and the lover of Sri Radha, to that Vishnu, that he has surrendered, I offer my humble obeisances. So Namam Vishnupada, Krishna Preshtha, and Krishna Preshta. He's Krishna Preshta. Why? Because he is Radharani Preshta. And Krishna is praised because these manjaris are the ones who go and give the messages in spite of everybody else refusing to comply with Krishna. So that is why they are very dear, these manjaris. And therefore they are so dear that because on the order of Radharani and Krishna, they came down to the material world, Bhutale, from Golok Vrindavan, leaving their association, their personal physical association and their personal leela as an interactions for us, for fallen souls like us. Because Golok Vrindavan and even Vaikuntha is full of 75% of the living entities are majority, 25% is the material creation. So 75% is full of jivas that are perfected souls. Now, amongst those perfected souls in Vaikuntha and Golok, only a few are selected to do a very special job that Krishna can and Radharani can completely rely on. Just like I like to give this example, I'll give it again. Supposing if there is a big wedding in the family and there are so many guests that everything to be taken care of. So the father of the bride will tell the mama of the bride, the daughter, the brother-in-law, you know what, you take care of the catering and you take care of the decorations. So he's a brother-in-law, don't worry, it's done. Now you don't have to worry. So once the brother-in-law says it's done, then the parents are at peace. They don't have to worry about whether the caterer is going to cook properly, all the items are going to be there, the decorations are going to be there, etc. You get the idea. So similarly, not all services are meant for everybody. Everybody can do some services, but certain services only some very reassured devotees can do, and they are completely dependent on. And that is why they are Prishta. And that dependency that Krishna knows that when they go down, Krishna Prishta Bhutale, they will indeed benefit mankind and they will give them the rasa of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishna Prishta Bhutale. Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Namine. Srimate, this word is also used in Srila Prabhupada's Pranam Mantra. Srimate, it's a grammatical term in Sanskrit for a male actually, but also Srimate. Shri means Lakshmi Devi in one sense, but the original Lakshmi, like in the Brahma Samhita, Lord Brahma is describing Goloka, Lakshmi Sahasra Sata Sambrahma Sevyamanam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So Lakshmi Sahasra, Lakshmi means these are all gopis. And the topmost gopi Shri, from whom all the Mahalakshmis and all the Lakshmis who are incarnations of, is Shri Radha. So Shri Mate means one whose intelligence is always engaged and engrossed for the pleasure of Shri Radha. That is Shri Mate. That shows that Radha Dasyam is predominant. Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, very clear in the first two lines, and even Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswate Devi. So here further, and by the way, for those who probably either know or have forgotten, Prabhupada's Pranamanta Srila Prabhupada himself composed. Nobody else was qualified enough. And Prabhupada is one of the Manjaris as well, but we don't know which one. And he knows each and every service in Golok Vrindavan. So he had to, somehow or the other, for the purification of the souls here, he had to glorify himself. Sometimes an Acharya does that for the benefit of others. An example that I can quickly think is at 26 2nd Avenue, Srila Prabhupada in the beginning, the devotees used to assemble there, and everybody used to bow down to Swamiji. They had learned that when the Swamiji comes into the 26 2nd Avenue, and when he sits on the Vyasasan seat and when he starts kirtan, everybody should bow down. But there was one person who would not do that. His name was Greg. Greg would not bow down. So then Prabhupada, after stopping the kirtan, and he was just about to, after the Jai Dhwani, Jai Om Vishnupat Paramahansa Parivajaya Stutra Shrila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Jagadguru Shabha, etc., calling out the Jai Dhwani, he would ask him, why are you standing, Greg? Why aren't you bowing down? So now that would be surprising that Prabhupada is demanding that somebody bow down to him. But that's consciousness is totally different. We cannot imitate him. None of us, not even his disciples. That is not the like Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur was, you have the mace. But Prabhupada writes in his English poem, you have the mace. That means you have the authority. So Prabhupada had the authority. He said, you bow down. So Swamiji, I just don't feel like bowing down. So the Prabhupada, no, you must bow down. It is for your own good. When you bow down, you give up your ego in installments every time you bow down. So the entire crowd laughed. Prabhupada laughed. And since that day, Greg started bowing down, and later on he became Gargamuni. So Brahmanand, Bruce and Greg, they were two brothers in the first batch in New York. Brahmanand and Gargamuni. Gargamuni, I think he's still in Vrindavan in the Krishna Balaram temple. Both these brothers served Srila Prabhupada very, very sincerely in the early days. So similarly, Prabhupada composed his own pranam mantra. So he himself is saying that I'm very dear to Krishna Parishta. And also, obviously, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada is also Krishna Parishta because he also came down. Radharani said, Krishna said, go down. Oh, and if it was us, do I have to leave Vrindavan? I don't want to go back to Chicago. I don't want to go back to Toronto. I don't want to go back to my work. I don't want this. I want to stay here. So in one subtle sense, most of us who want to enjoy the Dham, it is a subtle, what should I say, sense enjoyment. Although it is on a very sattvic platform or even with a tinge of transcendentalism. But on the highest platform, if Krishna says, leave my company, leave Vrindavan, go to New York, go to the Bowery in San Francisco, go to those drunkard areas where the drug addicts are. How many of us will be ready to do that? But without blinking an eye, Srila Prabhupada, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Bhakti Thakur said, leave Mayapur. That's your real service. Go to Kolkata, the bigger cities. There they need Krishna consciousness. That is real service to Mayapur. That is real service to Vrindavan. That is real service to Nandan Krishna. Because Krishna also says in the Bhagavad Gita, the one who explains this secret teachings is, there's nobody so dear to me, not in the past, present, or future. Last chapter, last couple of verses, I believe. The verses are. So that is why Krishna Prishna was Srimati. And Mati is not, Srimati means automatically Krishna Mati. But Sri in particular is Radharani. Srimati Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati iti namine. One who has given all the Siddhantas based on Bhakti Siddhanta, which is analogous to Srila Prabhupada, Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine. Everything, Vedanta means, Ved means the Vedas, and Anta means the conclusion. The conclusion of the Vedas explained from the Bhakti perspective is known as a Bhakti Vedantist. So there are many Vedantists who are Mayavadis. So they cannot explain the Vedas or the Vedanta Sutras or the Vedantas based on the pure devotional conclusions. Their conclusion is everything is Nirgun, I am God, Aham Brahmasmi, there is no God, everything is just some light, it's some energy. That is their conclusion from the shlokas of the Vedas. The Mayavad, the Shankaracharya followers, Sri Shankaracharya path followers. So like this. So the thing is that Bhakti Vedanta and Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati iti namine. And because he was known as Saraswati, that suffix was given through because of his erudite scholarship, due to his writing those books, Surya Siddhanta and the different books that he had written earlier. And Bhaktivinoda Thakur used to call him Saraswati. So known as Saraswati. Namaste Saraswati, the Gauravani Pracharina. Prabhupada is speaking Gauravani because he was instructed by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur in his very first meeting, preach the message of the gospel of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the message of Mahaprabhu, Gauravani. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati iti namine, that personality known as Sri Varsha Bhanvi Devi Daitaya Kripabdaye. This initiated name given by Gaur Krishna Babaji Maharaj, I had explained that earlier. Sri Varsha Bhanvi Devi Daitaya Das. What a long name. Sri Varsha Bhanvi Devi Daitaya Das means the dear servant of the daughter of King Vrishabhanu. So there we see that Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur is a very, very close servant of Sri Radha. Bhakti Sri Varsha Bhanvi Devi Daitaya Kripabdaye, and he is the ocean of mercy. Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Daine Prabhave Namaha. He's always giving the science of Krishna consciousness. Same thing, A.C. Bhakti Swami Krishna Prabhupada. Vijnanam, Vishesh Jnana iti Vijnana. What is Vishesh Jnana? We call Vijnana in vernacular languages the sciences that we learn in school, colleges, and universities. Like physics, chemistry, biology is called Vijnana. But Vijnana in Sanskrit means Vishesh Jnana iti Vijnana. Vishesh means topmost knowledge, which is I am not this body, I am a spirit soul. I am an eternal servant of Krishna, and I have relationships with Krishna. And as a Gaudiya Vaishnava, my relationship is to serve those devotees who are the servants of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or the servants of Sri Radha. That is the highest underlying principle. So, Sri Varsha Bhanvi Devi Daitaya Kripabdaye Krishna Sambandha Vijnana Daine Prabhave Namaha. He gives the Sambandha Gyan about who is Krishna and what is our relationship. And further, Daine Prabhave Namaha, I profusely offer my obeisances unto her. Namaste Gauravani. I offer my obeisances. Again, the word Gauravani comes in Prabhupada's Pranam Mantra and even in Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur's Pranam Mantra. Always speaking the message of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And what is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's message? Krishna Prem in Madhurya Rasa. That is the topmost message. This topmost message is the Shastakam, which is the pinnacle or the fruition of Krishna Prem in Madhurya Rasa. Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Deenatarini. He is the embodiment who can uplift the fallen souls. Same thing with Srila Prabhupada, that he uplifts the fallen souls. He has done that. We see that all over the world. In every town and village he went, he gave the holy name and he delivered many jagais and madais. Namaste Gauravani Shri Murtaye Deenatarini Rupa Nuga Viruddha Apasiddhanta Dvantahar. And Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, what a long pranam mantra. Rupa Anuga. Rupa Anuga is followers of Rupa Goswami, in the line of Rupa Goswami. Viruddha, those who are opposite in philosophy or speaking against the principles of pure Vaishnavism as propagated by Rupa Goswami. Rupa Nuga Viruddha Apasiddhanta Dvanta Harine. Apasiddhanta. Not Siddhanta, but Apasiddhanta. Apasiddhanta means the conclusion of pure devotion. If anybody brings anything else to the table, he will cut it to pieces. Dvanta Harine. He will cut it to pieces. That is the pranam mantra of Shrila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Like this, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, after hearing Sri Rupa Manjari Pada, and there was one more bhajan that he had requested that his father had composed. Tua Daya Achina Parama Udar, Atishoy Mando Nath Bhagya Amar, Nahi Janmilo Name Anurag Mor, Bhakti Vinod Chitto, Dukhe Vibhor. O Lord, you are the ocean of mercy. You have brought your innumerable holy names to this world and have taught the chanting of them to the fallen living beings just for their deliverance. So this is basically the second verse of Chaitanya Srishtastakam that Bhaktivinoda Thakur has put it in these verses of this particular bhajan that was requested. Tuhu doya sagaro tari te prani naam aneka tuva shikhole ani shakala shakti dei naam tohar. The holy name can give us all the energies. Grahane rakuli nahi kale vichar. There is no rules and regulations to chant the holy name. Shri Nama Chintamani Tohari Shamad. This holy name is like a touchstone. And it is you. Vishwe Bilola Karuna Nidan. It is indeed full of mercy. Tua Doya Charna Parama Udar. You are the most merciful and the most munificent. Atishoy Mandanath Bhagamar. But I am so unfortunate that I have no taste in chanting the holy name. Nahi Janmilo Name Anurag Mor. I have no attachment to the holy name. Bhakti Vinod Chitta Dukhe Vibhor. And this is the dilemma of Bhakti Vinod Thakur. So this is the last, these two bhajans were sung, and then Sri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur left his body on this day in 1936, December 31st. These are our great acharyas, my dear devotees. We have a legacy. We have something that we have a torch as torch bearers. But we can only bear the torch if we are able to understand them. We follow in their footsteps to the best of our ability, without dilution, without any personal gain or motive, just for their pleasure, because their pleasure means Sri Radha's pleasure ultimately. So here I conclude. All glories to His Divine Grace, Sri Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada. All glories to all the Vaishnava Acharyas in our Gaudiya line. All glories to His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Indeed, every day I feel I'm so fortunate that somehow or the other I have been, admitted to this school of Gaudiya Vaishnavism by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada and his sincere followers. So I know it has just been a long glorification, but not long enough, honestly speaking, for such a great personality who was such a very dear servitor of Sri Radha. So Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. So I have few devotees on the conference call on the phone line, and also a few of them on the Zoom call. Thank you all very much for engaging me in this service. And it is Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada said that we can all directly ask on the appearance and disappearance of an Acharya spiritual benefits, because they are so merciful that when they do, Krishna must listen to their prayers. When they make a petition, we heard that quote earlier from Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, that when a pure devotee makes a petition, a Vaishnava makes a petition, then Krishna must listen. So we seek your blessings, oh dear Gurudev of Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, oh Varsha Bhanvi Daitaya Das, oh somebody who is so dear to Radharani, oh someone who is so dear to Rupa Manjari, someone who is so dear to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, someone close to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's heart. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Radha Govinda combination, and Radha Govinda are indeed the object of worship for us Gaudiya Vaishnavas. So as Narottam Das Thakur says in his bhajan. Radha Krishna Pranamura Jugala Kishora. In the last line, he says, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Dase Anudas Seva Adhikara Diye Narottama Das. So similarly, you know, in a similar fashion, although I may not have the same mood, but even though it may be artificial, please overlook that. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, oh Vaishnava Acharyas, please make me the proper Dasanudas in the proper mood, as in the Gaudiya Vaishnava line, and in the line of Radha Govinda, the line of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Hare Krishna. So now if anybody has any comments or questions, you may open up your microphone. It's a good thing that some of you stayed back. It was encouraging. And of course, we have to be fasting until 12 o'clock today anyways. So it's always good to glorify the Acharya. It's to our benefit. Hopefully, Radharani and Krishna and the entire Guru Parampara is pleased. So thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Is there any questions or comments? You may unmute yourself. I may have to interchange in between the two calls that are going on simultaneously, but go ahead. Thank you, Rupini Mataji. That was nice, kind words. Glories goes to Srila Prabhupada and his sincere followers. You know, somehow or the other, that inspiration came to a fallen soul like me. So I appreciate the kind words. Thank you. All glories to Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Yes. Is there anybody else that would like to express? Maybe we can ask somebody from the Zoom. Yes, Pitambar Prabhu, Hare Krishna. Dandavat pranams.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat pranam, all glories to Prabhupada. Prabhu, I don't have any words to express the way we have gone into the depth of glorification of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Prabhupada, it is just beautiful. I don't have words to say, but the more we go in depth, the more we find nectar. And to understand this fully, maybe I need to again go through the recording 1, 2, 3 times, because you have put up so many pearls on the way that to pick up all those would be next to impossible. But we want to understand. So for sure, it is your Guru Maharaj's mercy that you are distributing this nectar to every one of us. And we are so grateful, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Yes. All glories to Guru and Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to all the Acharyas in our Gaudiya line. Thank you, Pidambar Prabhu, again for the kind words. You know, indeed it is purifying. Yes, you know, every time I speak on these subject matters, it purifies me. So yes, and the recording will be available on Bhagavad.ca, the YouTube video that was recorded on the Zoom call. So Hare Krishna.